Good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting of Carpinteria Unified School District. It is April 8th, 2025. Can everybody please stand for the flag salute? Ready, begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. We have our C2 closed session report, C2A, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release, Government Code Section 54957, information was exchanged, no action taken. And C2B, Conference with Labor Negotiators, information was exchanged, no action taken. We're going to move on to C3, public comment for items not on the agenda. So if you would like to speak to something that's within our jurisdiction but not on tonight's agenda, please step up to the podium at this time. You will have your 3 minutes and then just the next person go up right after. Be sure the green light is bright. It'll be bright green if it's on. So be sure that's on. Okay. Thank you.
It's on. Okay. Se ha hecho justicia en el caso del presidente del sindicato, Jay Hodgner. Cuando leí los testimonios aquí de mis hijas, Andrea, Ana y Mónica Delgado, mostraron su respeto al presidente del sindicato como maestro y como persona con grandes valores morales. Ello mostró a la comunidad que el distrito iba a perder su caso y eso pasó. En 2024, la superintendente Rigby y el vicepresidente Schaefer hicieron comentarios ofensivos contra el presidente del sindicato. En abril de 2024, el vicepresidente Schaefer, en el récord oficial, afirmó que estaba 100% seguro que el distrito ganaría la demanda contra el presidente del sindicato, Jay Hodgner, y renunciaría si el distrito perdía. El distrito perdió el 21 de marzo de 2025. Debes de renunciar inmediatamente, vicepresidente Schaefer. Si no lo haces, ¿cómo es que la comunidad puede confiar en ti si no cumples tu palabra? La conspiración para despedir al presidente del sindicato, Jay Hodgner, falló. En 1216 le di el beneficio de la duda a la superintendente y voté por ella para su contratación, pero fracasó. El distrito y los 5 miembros de la mesa directiva han mal usado $3,5 millones de dinero público. Y su propia auditoría mostró que $3,522,000 no se usó en la educación como requiere la ley. ¿Dónde está el dinero? Está en las cuentas bancarias. Ahora a estos abogados del distrito. Ese dinero era para los maestros, para los programas estudiantiles, para los estudiantes de educación especial. ¿Se van a disculpar ustedes con el presidente del sindicato, con su familia, con los maestros, con los estudiantes de educación especial? Si hay huelga de maestros, la culpa será de ustedes, de la mesa directiva. La comunidad.
Your time is up, and if you're going to say it now in English, that's fine. But it's 3 and 3.
Jay Hodgner will provide the translation in English.
Yes, I'll provide the translation from Mr. Delgado's comments. Please consider how every day many students in the district are also unaware of what was just shared because CUSD has misappropriated tax dollars towards far less effective and now even unlawful priorities instead of providing adequate language support. Mr. Delgado said justice has been done on the district's, in regard to the district's attack against the union president. When I read the testimonies of my daughters, Andrea and Ana and Monica Delgado, that showed respect to the union president, Mr. Hotchner, as a teacher and as a person with great moral values. It showed that the district was going to lose its case, and it did happen that way. In 2024, Superintendent Rigby and Clerk Schaefer made several strong offensive comments against Union President Hotchner. On April 2024, Clerk Schaefer stated that he was 100% sure that the district was going to win its case and that he would resign if the district should lose. On March 21st, 2025, the district lost, and you must resign immediately, Mr. Schaefer. If you don't do it, how can the community trust you? The conspiracy to fire the union president failed. On 2016, I gave Superintendent Rigby the benefit of the doubt and voted for her hire, but it failed. The district and 5 board members have misused $3.5 million from taxpayers. The district's own audit showed that $3.5 million, exactly $3,522,648 were not used for the education of students as required by law. Where's the money now? It's in the district attorney's bank accounts. That money was for teachers, for salaries, for student programs, special education students, and the most vulnerable students in the district. Are you going to apologize to the union president, to teachers, to special education students and families, and the community? If there's a teacher strike, it would be the fault of the district. Teachers and support staff represent education and the learning of our kids. They deserve to be paid. In order to have a healthy budget, members of the community demand that the district stop misappropriating taxpayers' money on unnecessarily and ill-advised lawsuits and apply that money to education. I'm now going to speak on behalf of union leadership and district employees. It's a separate statement. Please let me know when I may begin, Ms. Thomas. No. Thank you. In my role as union president and on behalf of district employees, we provide an update on our current contract bargaining impasse. Almost 1 month ago, the California Public Employment Relations Board, CalPERB, directed the 23-24 negotiations to fact-finding, now 22 months ongoing. Employees are disappointed that the district did not take either the 7-month mediation process any more seriously than it took the 14-month bargaining process. Approximately a week ago, the state selected an impartial expert to evaluate the matter and file a report establishing the most pertinent facts. The fact finder is authorized to either facilitate a settlement or issue a substantive recommendation as to how the dispute might be resolved. If the district rejects the fact finder's recommendation, it may unilaterally impose its will on district employees, but not without a cost. Employees may then determine how to best respond, including retracting all voluntary service, working only to the contract, and even engaging in a general strike if not leaving the district altogether. Although a strike is the last thing employees want, they may be compelled to participate in such actions based on the district's unwillingness to reach a fair agreement after 22 months. Fortunately, nothing prohibits employees and district officials from settling the outstanding impasse because employees want to avoid any further interruption of services to our students and their families. We continue to submit settlement proposals that would equitably resolve the impasse process. Of the 2 most recently submitted, one proposed a smaller salary increase than even the district's last best offer in 23-24, while attempting to resolve the current 24-25 school year negotiations as well. The other proposal accepted far less than the district's last best offer, as long as a contingency was established to equitably split any property tax revenues that came in higher than the district's projections. Such a contingency formula would protect the district from future uncertainties. With a contingency in place, the parties needn't rely on the trust that doesn't exist. Instead of arguing about the accuracy of the district's budget projections, while students and families continue to suffer, employees confirmed their willingness to accept what we believe to be a highly manipulated budget projection from the district. Of course, only if there is a contingency formula in place. If the district's projections are accurate, the matter is over. However, employees are also protected by the proposed contingency formula because if the district has once again under-projected revenues, which is all too common, the bargaining partners would have a clear roadmap for distributing the additional revenue dollars towards employees' salary increases. Again, imagine employees and district officials all rowing in the same direction, avoiding future conflict, and agreeing to address future financial contingencies together. Unfortunately, district officials continue to pursue the most expensive and confrontational approach to resolving negotiations. Thus far, not even one district official has responded
is up.
to our
Thank you.
proposals. Thank you.
Excuse me, she was at the podium.
All right, okay. I want to translate Jay's statement.
Oh, yes, thank you. He's going to
It's not, it's not mine.
Okay, just going forward.
Yes.
If you could please be prepared.
Yes.
And not wait
Correct.
till he's already back at his seat because it's confusing to the other speakers and it's not fair
Yeah.
for them.
All right,
She was
okay.
at the podium.
Ok, all right, thank you. Hace un mes, PERF declaró la investigación de hechos. Hace una semana, el Estado designó a un experto imparcial para evaluar los hechos, para facilitar una negociación. Si el distrito no la ofrece, puede imponer su voluntad. Entonces, los empleados pueden determinar qué hacer, incluyendo una huelga debido a la falta de acción del distrito. El sindicato, sus empleados, someten ofertas. Una de ellas es aceptar menos de lo que el distrito está ofreciendo con la contingencia que se compartan de igual manera, de forma equitativa, los impuestos de propiedad. Esto protegería a los empleados del distrito de incertidumbres futuras. Hasta ahora, ningún oficial ha respondido, pero no es tarde. Los empleados sostienen esta conversación de buena fe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. Good evening. I'm Jamie Collins, Executive Director of Girls Inc. of Carpinteria, and this is Lucy, who's also a Girls Inc. member and a proud member of the DLI program at Canalino as well. I'm here to highlight the strength of our over 30-year partnership with the district and some of the continued successes that happen for our kids and the programs that we're able to do both at the middle school and high school levels. Also tonight with me is our program director, is Kenya Rodriguez, who not only directly teaches some of our programs at the middle schools and high schools, but is also going to provide some insight to the curricula that we use. Girls Inc. Informed and in Charge program that's taught in the middle school and our Taking Charge program that's taught in the high school provide a critical piece of education that equips young people with the tools to make informed, respectful, and healthy decisions in their lives. Our dedicated educators are providing relevant, age-appropriate, LGBT-inclusive, culturally competent, and medically accurate information. And they're doing it in a way that builds trust, opens dialogue, and creates safe spaces for students to ask real questions and receive real answers. And this isn't just our perspective. We consistently receive overwhelmingly positive feedback from both our students, parents, and the teachers. Students often tell us the same thing. They want more of this programming. They want to know more. They're appreciative of the open, honest conversations they may not be having anywhere else. And teachers tell us that they see the impact within their classrooms. Girls Inc. is proud to serve the Carpinteria community and has consistently adapted our programs to enhance school day learning and also give back to the district through our in-kind programming, such as initiatives like our Recess Club that goes to the elementaries and middle schools on a weekly basis and supports socio-emotional development and positive behavior during unstructured school time. So we're proud of the impact that we're making together and are grateful for your continued support.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kenya Rodriguez, and I'm the Programs Director for Girls Inc. of Carpinteria, and I am one of the lead facilitators for the Girls Inc. Healthy Sexuality programs. For over 30 years, Girls Inc. has had the privilege of offering this program to the students in this district, and I come to you today with deep gratitude and a profound sense of responsibility, both as a youth development professional and as a member of this community. This program has provided a critical space for young people to explore topics that are often considered taboo, topics that, for many of them, they are too afraid to ask about at home or at school. From healthy relationships to consent, to sexual health rights, to gender identity, we offer a safe, supportive, and non-judgmental environment where students can ask questions, share their concerns, and learn from another in an empowering way. Over the years, we've given hundreds, if not thousands, of teens the opportunity to ask questions that many adults might feel uncomfortable answering or not have the answers themselves. Questions like, why do women and men get treated differently? Is it because of their genitals? Why do women care so much about the way they look? Where are they getting these messages? Is it always safe to come out as LGBTQ? How do I stop rumors from being spread about me at school? What if my partner tells me to do something I don't want to do? Do I just do it, or should I leave? These are real, raw questions that young people often don't have the space to ask, and through our Girls Inc. Healthy Sexuality program, they can find those answers without judgment. This work is deeply personal to me because I've seen the profound impact on the lives of many young people. Teens often come to us with questions about their bodies, their desires, and their emotions, questions they're afraid to ask anyone else. And through this Girls Inc. program, we provide them with a safe, trusted space to explore these topics. They are not alone in their questions. They have us, they have Girls Inc., supporting them every step of the way, and they should continue to have you, the CUSD School Board, standing with them too. Your support sends a powerful message to these young people that they have a community that cares about their needs and is committed to their well-being. The Girls Inc. curriculum is carefully crafted to meet the developmental needs of students, aligning both state and federal educational standards. It is medically accurate, evidence-based, culturally competent, ensuring that that the information we are providing is reliable, inclusive, and respectful of every student's unique identity, values, and goals. The need for this program is more pressing now than ever before. In a world where misinformation runs rampant and conversations around sex, identity, relationships are often shrouded in shame, this program equips students with the tools that they need to make informed and empowered decisions. Many teens across the U.S. still don't have the right to comprehensive, accurate, supportive sexual education, and that's why I'm here today, to ask for your continued support of this critical work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julie. Are we ready? There you go. Okay. Good evening. My name is Julie Sigwart. I'm a longtime Carpinteria resident, sat on the Measure U committee, and I'm a parent of a recent CHS graduate. And as someone who's I've spent a lot of years volunteering for this district. And I'm here tonight because of what's happened over the last few years. It isn't just disappointing, it's unacceptable. On March 21st, Judge Donna Geck ruled against the district in case 24 CV 01068. I was there, I was the only person there. And that's your fourth legal loss in the matter of Mr. J. Hotchner. You lost at PURB, you lost in arbitration, you lost before the Commission on Professional Competence, and now you've lost in Superior Court. At every level, neutral third parties concluded that this case didn't meet the legal standard. In her ruling, Judge Geck even noted that the district presented a one-side, exaggerated, and at times sensationalized case. The court found that the testimony lacked credibility. As just one example, the district tried to frame a simple hand gesture, a symbol used by multiple staff, including Principal O'Shea, as something inappropriate. That's not just a stretch, it's a serious misrepresentation. The judge went further, saying that if the district had even one credible witness with actual proof, that would have been enough. But you didn't have that. Instead, you threw everything at the wall, 30-plus witnesses, a mountain of weak claims, and hoped that something would stick. All the while spending over $3.5 million of public money on legal fees. And what's worse, you ignored clear legal precedent. In the Santa Barbara Unified School District case, a teacher told a student, just because you're good in bed doesn't mean that you can eat in class. And still, that teacher was not dismissed. The commission reinstated him. The district appealed to the appeals court, and then they lost again. That's the one above the court that you just were in. If your legal team didn't bring that case to your attention, that's malpractice. If they did, and you pursued this anyway, that's on you. And while you've been focused on this one teacher, who, by the way, also happens to be the head of the teachers union, the district is facing 4 major lawsuits tied to decades-old abuse allegations. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, these cases could bankrupt the district. That's where your focus should have been, protecting students, restoring trust, and managing risk. Instead, we've had a superintendent, Diana Rigby, who either failed to advise the board appropriately or actively fueled this vendetta.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay, asking for Rigby to resign and
Your
Andy.
time is up.
Andy to resign. You said you would.
Ma'am, your
Scouts
time is up.
honor.
Please step away. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cecilia Mamta Malik, a student at Carpinteria Family School, currently in 3rd grade at Jan Silk's class. I understand one of the proposed reductions for next year's school budget includes eliminating the 2nd, 3rd family school class. I urge you to consider keeping the class, and here's why. Children are not all the same. Some need a place where their emotions are nurtured in a safe and supportive environment. Family school has given that to my son and many of his classmates. Family school provides us, as a family of just 3, a community, something we cherish deeply as our extended family lives far from here. Malik enjoys family Fridays at school. It's a great opportunity to bond. Last week at Dangburger, we ran into 2 former family school students. They had nothing but good memories of family school. Keep in mind, school closures negatively impact students' mental health and well-being. Please don't close Carpinteria Family School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is George Caliente. I'm a teacher at Carpinteria High School. I teach math, computer science, robotics. I've taught geosciences. I've taught physics in other schools. I've got a lot of experience. In the 20 years I've been teaching, I've got a lot of experience. I came to this school 10 years ago, and I was hired at step 5. After having 8 years of experience already, or 9 years of experience already. I was told every year I get a new step. That's like a raise. Okay, I'm used to that, that's good. This is my 10th year in the district. I should be at step 15, I'm still being paid at step 14. That's a mystery. I've been hearing from other teachers and administrators that, oh yeah, you get a raise with your step is your raise, but I didn't get that this year. A bunch of us didn't get our cost of living raises or anything because of what's going on with the union and you folks. I just wish that you would all please lick your wounds. You guys lost in the courts, and it's time to move on. We're struggling. I was a 2-income household. Now it's just me. And I'm afraid that this just might be my last year, because if you guys don't settle this pretty quickly, and if my wife doesn't get her income back, then we're out of here. We got to go. And I don't want to leave here. I've been working, in public education for almost 20 years, and this is by far my favorite school district. I've been blessed. Ms. Rigby has given me, and Cornejo and all of you guys, I'm sure you signed off on it, given me thousands of dollars to spend on electronics to build our robotics program. And I want to continue to do that. It's my passion. But I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to, that I'm going to have to pack up and leave. Now, the little bit of pay increase that you guys are holding back on, that's not enough to support my family, all right? I still need my wife to get her income reinstated. But if that doesn't happen and we do get our raise, then yeah, maybe I could work something out, it'll be tight. But this just might be my last year, and I hope it's not. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you guys decide with this. So please, I beg you, let's just be done with this whole, I don't even understand the details of the argument. One thing that's super frustrating that I heard was our administrators, they got 2 raises since our last raise. And I asked, like, how's the justification?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. We are moving on to C4, approval of the minutes. May I get, we will take public comment for approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 11th. If you'd like to comment about the minutes of March 11th meeting, please step up to the podium at this time.
Alrighty, so let the minutes of the March 11th board meeting show at item I, elected employee leadership, again asked that the concept of a contingency formula be used to resolve the district's fiscal disagreements between employees and district administration and the board. Let the minutes show that the concept of a contingency formula be placed on an upcoming board agenda. That was also requested. Let the minutes of the March 11th board meeting show that at item F, the district provided another round of strategic projections which unsurprisingly further underestimated revenues and overestimated expenditures, a common negotiating tactic that drives down the district's reserve balance in years out, making it easier to allege that there will be no money for either salary increases or critical safety improvements. Let the minutes show that by overestimating expenditures unnecessarily, the district budget projections maintain over $1 million in legal fees each year for the next 3, reducing the reserve balance further. And let the minutes show that by underestimating revenues, changes to CUSD's budget projections removed $4.5 million from the district's property tax revenue projections over the next 3 years, further driving down reserve balances. Let the minutes show CUSD justified this budget revenue reduction, stating that it was simply following the county's projections, which are an average of all cities and towns in the county. Let the minutes show the district's justifications fail to acknowledge that Carpinteria routinely and historically receives property taxes well above the county average. But until the actual revenues come in, district officials would have us believe that Carpinteria's property tax revenues will be proportional to Santa Maria, Guadalupe, Orcutt, and Lompoc. Let the minutes show that these 2 actions alone on paper removed a total of $7.5 million from the district's reserve balance. $7.5 million less to work with when making critical decisions about the future investments that are needed in our district towards employees and towards students. Let the minutes show that rather than argue over the accuracy of the district's projected revenues, employees have proposed an agreement to end the impasse and accept the district's projections at this time as long as a contingency formula is put in place. A contingency formula would ensure the equitable distribution of future property tax revenues if and when they come in higher than the district's hyper-conservative projections. Let the minutes show that such a contingency formula would address whatever revenue contingencies are out there and allow the bargaining partners to reach an agreement that places the district and employees again on the same side of the table, working together, rowing in the same direction, sharing future fiscal challenges and opportunities more equitably, and ending the current conflict. Thank you.
Okay. May I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2025?
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion from the board? Oh, yeah, you weren't there. I can't look that way. Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 1 abstention. I have a quick question. I have I have a statement I wanted to make, but I'm not really sure where to make it. I guess maybe I should have done it at the very beginning. Okay, so I'm just going to make a quick statement. Okay. We believe those entrusted with the care and education of our students have both a legal and moral obligation to treat every child with respect and dignity. The court adopted the Commission of Professional Competence findings that Mr. Hotchner engaged in inappropriate and unprofessional conduct that served no legitimate educational purpose. However, despite the teacher's conduct, the court ultimately upheld the CPC's determination that the conduct did not rise to the level of warranting dismissal. As a result, the teacher will be returning to the classroom. While we are disappointed with the outcome, the district remains committed to listening to and validating the experiences of its students. We are incredibly proud of the students who came forward to speak on behalf of themselves and their peers. Self-advocacy is a powerful lifelong skill that we must encourage in our students, and we do so by honoring, never stifling their voices. Above all, the district will continue to prioritize student safety, well-being, and the creation of a learning environment where every student feels heard, supported, and respected. Okay. We are now going to move on to C5, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Public comment for C5. We will now take public comment for C5, approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Diamond. That was as weak as all 4 of your legal actions. The consent agenda, as with the rest of the board meeting, is governed by the Brown Act. The Brown Act is designed to prevent the advancement of public business without transparency. It is designed to provide members of the community an opportunity to more thoroughly consider the details associated with matters of district business before those matters are quickly processed through the consent agenda en masse. The consent agenda items When consent agenda items are brought before the public at a previous board meeting, the practice obscures debate and prevents dissenting viewpoints and concerns from being placed on the public record. The union is pleased to report that this evening's consent agenda, as with the last few board meetings, fortunately, is fairly innocuous. It does not contain any significant monetary investments in highly questionable or concerning items. But make no mistake, although we're pleased that CUSD is improving in this area, district officials have a long history of misusing the consent agenda and including less innocuous items to be approved en masse when district officials have preferred said items not receive the scrutiny they deserve. An example would be the continuation of the contract with F3 Law, CUSD's notoriously anti-labor law firm that has advised the district through years of contract violations, unfair labor practices, court decisions against the district, and ineffective contract bargaining. The contract with 3F Law is just one of many examples of how the consent agenda is misused to quietly push items past the public en masse without so much as a single question asked on the record by any board official or administrator. $3.5 million taxpayer dollars spent in the last 2 years alone, the majority of it going to 3F Law, the law firm Ms. Rigby brought with her to CUSD. Now, setting aside our procedural concerns pertaining to the consent agenda, employees strongly support several items contained in this evening's agenda, including the purchase of books for the CMS library. Ms. Guarnero's recommendations leave us highly confident about this purchase. The 2025 AVID membership for Carpinteria High School and Carpinteria Middle School. We should be doing all we can to increase the comparatively low college attendance numbers in CUSD, and AVID has proven to have a positive impact on college readiness. The subscription renewal of Frontline technology, when used as designed, Frontline provides an efficient method for registering employee absences. That said, we asked that more attention be given to how this program can be used to better ensure the substitute coverage that is so often not provided in the district. Lastly, Mr. Caff, we believe you stated that admin costs are included in the classified payroll. If that's accurate, if we understand that correctly, what portion of the classified payroll is directed to administrative costs now that admin has received 2 significant salary increases?
Time is up. Thank you so much.
In the same amount of time, employees have received none.
Any further public comment on approval of the agenda and consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Roll call.
Eric?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
I'm aye.
Wonderful. We are going to now move on to public interest reports and presentations. If you would like to make public comment on any of the items under E, public interest reports or presentations, please step up to the podium at this time to make your public comment.
The superintendent's report is once again more remarkable for the details the superintendent failed to mention than the details the superintendent included. Union leadership understands how, at this very moment in her tenure with the district, Ms. Rigby desperately needs some positive news. So no surprise that she focused only on areas we can celebrate, or at least where positive spins can be applied. Aliso's well-deserved recognition as a 2025 California Distinguished School is one of those areas that really deserves recognition. This is truly noteworthy, and it speaks to the exceptional collaboration and influence that Principal Weiberg has had, and the real just genuine teamwork that's going on with the Aliso staff, and how that's transformed the professional culture, community, and academic trajectory of Aliso School. Both union leaders and select Aliso parents can also take great pride in Aliso's new status. Who could have imagined such recognition had Aliso parents and union leadership not demanded and worked to remove the previous principal, who Ms. Rigby appointed against the recommendation of both the hiring panel and employee leadership, and then bitterly defended even when removing her was required. And who can't help but smile when hearing about the Explore Ecology's recognition of Ms. Rugg, a Catalino instructional aide, who has brought her personal passion for environmentalism to the elementary level. But where were the reports on the most pressing and influential matters currently impacting the district, Ms. Rigby? Why did you fail to mention those matters that have the potential to either A, bankrupt the district, or B, send the district into state receivership? Why is there no report on contract bargaining? After 22 months and extraordinary fees paid to outsource a bargaining process previously superintendents led, we are at impasse and closer than ever to a general strike. Why is there no report on the district's 2-year, $3.5 million taxpayer dollar legal escapade instead of following the court's order in 2021 to cease and desist with retaliation and discrimination against elected employee leaders? District officials chose to punish those employee leaders further by engaging in even more unlawful discipline. Why are you not reporting how reckless that investment was, Ms. Rigby, and how that's impacting students and employees and their families instead of feckless statements by your board president? Lastly, employee leadership looks forward to this evening's DLI presentation. We reserve comment until we have a better sense of how transparently the presentation addresses both the strengths and the weaknesses of the program. Employees are especially interested to hear how the following issues are addressed: the efficacy of the DLI program as it pertains to student achievement in Spanish and in English, the impact of the DLI program on CUSD's ability to recruit and maintain highly qualified educators whose expertise goes beyond bilingualism, and the impact that the DLI program is having in other areas of the district, especially class composition, resource
Time is up.
distribution,
Thank you.
and student achievement in general
Any
ed
further
classes.
public
Thank
comment
you.
on E, public interest reports or presentations? Okay. Seeing none, we are going to now move over to Angel with our student representative report.
All right, thank you, board. For those of you who do not know me in this room, I am Angel Pineda Santana. I'm a Carpinteria High School senior, and I'm the high school student representative. And I have some exciting news to share with you all. 5th grade visits to engineering and robotics. We are excited to welcome 5th grade students from Catalino and Family School to our engineering and robotics program this Wednesday and Thursday. Next week, we'll also host students from Aliso and Summerlin schools. College decision for graduating seniors. Our seniors have been accepted to 4-year colleges and are currently making their final decisions. We look forward to sharing information about the college acceptances of the class of 2025 at the next upcoming school board meeting. FFA Leadership Development Events. Congratulations to the 14 CHS students who recently attended the State FFA Leadership Conference and Convention in Sacramento. These students were able to gain valuable leadership skills, able to see the opportunities that they're able to achieve with proficiencies, student panels, retiring addresses, and overall academic achievements that they're able to get that for some students don't know that they can. So this was an incredible event. Support student athletes at the Russell Cup. Mark your calendars for the 105th Russell Cup track meet on Saturday, April 19th, 2025. This historic small school invitation is the oldest in California, and it will feature approximately 1,200 student athletes, and we invite you all to come support these talented individuals. CHS Open House will be on April 14th. Join us for an annual CHS Open House on Monday, April 14th, where current and future parents and students can explore our various programs and learn more about this school community. Lastly, please join me in recognizing the significant contributions of Carpinteria High School assistant principals, Ms. Newman and Mr. Sabenas, as we celebrate National Assistant Principals Week, observed annually during the first full week of April, this year from April 7th to the 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Any questions or comments?
Angel, can you share with us how many of our high school students are actually going on to a four-year university, and maybe share where you've been accepted and what's happening to you?
From the friends and classmates that I have and know for sure, a lot of students will be attending schools such as UC Berkeley, UC Davis, Fresno State, Cal Poly Sloan, Pomona. A lot of my friends have gotten into all these schools. A couple of my friends will be going out of state, New York, Mississippi. Some are, still deciding. So next meeting, I'll be able to give an accurate number, but those are just some of the big names: UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Davis. These are incredible schools for these students and for what they want to achieve. I myself will be going to Fresno State in the fall with a major in agriculture education to become an agriculture teacher.
Yay.
Congratulations, Angel. That's huge.
And then, of course, there's an awful lot of your senior friends who are going to SBCC.
Yes, that's right. A lot of us still want to stay in the neighborhood, so we can't leave our parents just yet, and a lot of them will be doing the Promise program, which allows them to pay absolutely nothing for college for the first 2 years, and then they'll transfer to the college that they want, which is incredibly good.
Thank
you, Angel.
And I'm not putting you on the spot in this, but there are a number of students who are not going to a 2-year or a 4-year. They're going straight into their trade or profession. And that does not mean anything less of them. In fact, in my opinion, I hold that to huge respect for those that are doing that as well, just as much as a student going into a 4-year or a 2-year college. But just highlighting that there are students that do not go on to college, that do go directly straight into trades and go straight into business. And so it does not reflect in a report or on a piece of paper. And we are just as proud of those students as well. So thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to our superintendent's report.
Thank you. And I'd like to begin by asking everyone to join me in congratulating Principal Brett Weiberg and his Aliso staff for California Distinguished Schools. Aliso has been recognized as a 2025 California Distinguished School. Last week, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, announced that 336 elementary schools have been selected for the prestigious 2025 California Distinguished Schools program. That is California's school recognition program that recognizes 2 categories of exceptional schools: those closing the achievement gap and those demonstrating exceptional student performance. And this is the information from CDE. Since its inception in 1985, the California Distinguished Schools Award remains one of the state's most important ways to celebrate exceptional schools, districts, teachers, and classified employees for their innovation, talent, and success in supporting students. The exceptional elementary schools recognized this year are illustrative of the persistence and promise of California students, educators, and schools. To select California Distinguished Schools, the California Department of Education uses multiple measures to identify eligible schools based on their performance on the state indicators, as specified on the California School Dashboard. Specifically, schools were selected by analyzing data reported through the 2024 dashboard, with a focus on demonstrating excellence and growth in academic achievement and ensuring a positive school climate. Schools like Aliso were recognized for closing the achievement gap. They have demonstrated exemplary growth for student groups that have experienced persistent achievement gaps and have also demonstrated strong overall outcomes for all students. To qualify for closing the achievement gap recognition, schools must enroll at least 40% of students from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds and have demonstrated exceptional growth in English language arts or math to close persistent achievement gaps. The school must also have achieved a blue or green status on the dashboard for all students in the English language arts achievement, math achievement, chronic absenteeism, and suspension indicators, or have achievement on those indicators. In order to certify the legitimacy of these results, schools must have ensured that 95% of students participated in statewide assessments for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years. Again, congratulations to Aliso and Brett. We're really proud. Thank you. And we have more congratulations. Martha Rugg, our Catalino instructional assistant, has been awarded the Environmental Stewardship Award by Explore Ecology for her dedication to protecting the planet. At Catalino and Family School, Martha has spearheaded composting and garden education programs, led the Whale Mural Project, and inspired our students to become stewards of our campus. She will be honored at the Environmental Stewardship Awards luncheon on April 17th. I also have some information to share about our grade 5 students visiting the high school in the CTE pathway programs. During April, all grade 5 students will be introduced to robotics, computer science, engineering, and manufacturing at the high school. Students will spend 2 mornings at CHS with high school teachers and students participating in the following robotics and computer science activities: remote-controlled tank obstacle course, a Lego sumo challenge, drone coding, robot racing, fix the robot, and a pinball launcher. For engineering tasks, those will include designing a marshmallow launcher, building a catapult, and 3D printing. And then, of course, we have our Rotary Talent Showcase on April 12th at the Alcazar Theater. The Carpinteria Rotary Club will produce their annual variety show with proceeds supporting the CUSD music program. We certainly appreciate their generosity in supporting the arts, music, and theater programs in our schools. My next item is our open houses at all of our elementary, middle school, and high school for the month of April, from April 10th to May 1st. So please check their websites and please join us. And then my last item is Measure U. The new TKK kindergarten building project at Aliso received their initial response from DSA's Access Compliance, Fire, Life Safety, and Structural Safety teams on March 24th. These comments are standard and will be addressed by the design team. The coastal development permit and developmental plan submitted to the city remain under review. The required environmental testing of all 7 portables, both at Catalino and Aliso, scheduled for removal, that has been completed with test results scheduled this week. Bid and award schedules have also been set to begin in May, with plans and specifications being finalized. And lastly, our portables are scheduled for removal at the beginning of the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board on the superintendent's report? No? Okay. We are moving on to item 3, DLI update presentation. Carpinteria Middle School Principal, Dr. Jamie Pursoon, Catalino Family School Elementary Principal, Luis Quintero, Aliso Elementary Principal, Brett Weiberg, DLI teacher, Doctora Sonia Aguila, and UCSB, the Gervitz School Professor, Graduate Advisor, CCSP, International Center for School-Based Youth Development Director, Dr. Matthew Quirk, and researchers from UCSB contributing to the data will present on dual language immersion program. Thank you.
So good evening. We are really excited to present this evening about Carpinteria Unified School District's dual language immersion program. Our presenters are me, Dr. Jamie Pursoon, Dr. Sonia Aguila Gonzalez, Dr. Matt Quirk, Principal Luis Quintero, and Principal Brett Weiberg. We will go through the slides and then answer any questions that the board has. So the dual language immersion program in Carpinteria Unified School District began as an exploration in 2015 with a collaborative team from Catalino Elementary, including bilingual teachers, a bilingual parent, and Principal Jamie Pursoon. After 2 years of planning, writing a master plan, and presenting to the school board, the DLI program was approved before the passage of Prop 58 in 2016. The first DLI kindergarten cohort began in the 2017-2018 school year, with Aliso School launching its own DLI program in the 2021 to 2022 year. In 2018, the California Department of Education set a goal to expand bilingual programs statewide, and Catalino's program became a model for other districts, with many teams visiting across Santa Barbara County. CUSD's unique DLI model includes 30 minutes each of designated English language development and Spanish language development daily, now adopted by 11 schools in the county.
Hola. Our mission, why are we doing this? We want to place high value on bilingualism. We recently heard that English is the official language, and we all know that the future is bilingual and multilingual. We want our students to be bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. Our students develop proficiency in 2 languages while also gaining appreciation of different cultures. We study Hispanic Heritage Month, Frida Kahlo, Cesar Chavez, Dia de los Muertos, Black History Month, Chinese New Year, and more. Another very important mission is connecting our Carpinteria community. We invite local community leaders to engage with our students. They come to the classrooms, they do classroom visits, cultural presentations. We had the Ballet Folclórico during open house. We had the Mariachi Las Olas during family picnic. And for Career Day, we had many bilingual presenters. Another mission is responding to community desire for DLI, and as you remember, we had a group of parents that showed a very strong desire for their children to become bilingual. We even had a waiting list. The interest continues to grow, and we began our program at Catalino, and we expanded to Aliso. Another important mission is attending to the research about positive outcomes for our kids. Dr. Pursoon and I can tell you all about the benefits about being bilingual. We wrote many pages in our PhD. The research shows that bilingual students tend to perform better academically. They have stronger problem-solving skills and cultural awareness. And bilingualism can enhance empathy. And we also want the strengthening of connections between school, home, and community to ensure a supportive and inclusive learning environment. The DLI teachers, communicate with parents in both English and Spanish to ensure that families are involved. There are many opportunities for families to volunteer and participate in school activities. Parent engagement in DLI is very high, and not just DLI, small town, Carpinteria. So these are all examples that reflect the DLI's program's dedication to its mission of fostering bilingualism and strong community ties.
Hi, everyone. So here we have the bar graph to show you how our DLI program works at Catalino and at Aliso. In the kindergarten, we have the 90-10 model. So in kindergarten, they have 90% of instruction is in Spanish, 10% in English. Then when you go on to first grade, it's a 20-80, second grade 30-70, third grade 40-60, and then fourth and beyond 50-50. As we notice here, a lot of the English instruction does come into third grade. And an example in the kindergarten is that we have students who, let's say, come from an English-only speaking household. They have a Spanish language development course, whereas students who come from a Spanish-speaking household will receive the English development courses with our teachers. And as the years goes on, they get more English instruction within the class.
All right, so Proposition 58, passed by California voters in 2016, restored the opportunity for bilingual education in our public schools, repealing the English-only instruction mandate that had been in place since 1998. The important change opened the door for schools to offer a variety of bilingual programs, including DLI. A key component of Prop 58 is local control and flexibility. School districts and individual schools now have the authority to implement bilingual programs to meet the needs of their specific communities. Importantly, these programs are developed based on community input and parental involvement. Prop 58 also emphasizes parental choice. Families now have the right to request bilingual or dual language programs for their students, and schools are required to have a process in place to respond to these requests. When CUSD first launched the DLI program, it was only offered at Catalino, and students from Aliso who wanted to participate in the program had to transfer to Catalino. However, as interest and demand in the program continued to grow, it became clear that families at Aliso community wanted to access to the bilingual education without leaving their neighborhood school. So in response to that, we launched the DLI program at Aliso, expanding access and ensuring all students could benefit from this opportunity. What makes Prop 58 especially powerful is that it focuses on all students, not just the English language learners. It promotes bilingualism and biliteracy and supports improved academic outcomes for English learners and provides native English speakers with the opportunity to gain fluency in a second language through immersion instruction. The legislation provides the foundation for our DLI program and aligns closely with our goals of preparing students to thrive in a diverse and global society. So there's a little typo on this. It says State Bill 952, but it's supposed to be Senate Bill. So Senate Bill 952, passed in 2022, represents a significant step towards expanding dual language immersion programs across California. This legislation supports the vision of the Global California 2030, an initiative that aims to increase the number of students who graduate proficient in more than one language. At CUSD, our DLI program is part of the broader effort to promote biliteracy and multicultural understanding. One of the outcomes for our students is the opportunity to earn the seal of biliteracy upon graduation for high school. It's a recognition of proficiency in 2 or more languages. So currently, we're about 15% of CUSD students earn the seal of biliteracy, and our goal is to increase that number to 20% within the next 3 years. The expansion of our DLI program reflects the deep commitment to preparing our students for success in a diverse and global society. Through immersive English and Spanish instruction, we empower students to become confident, capable communicators and learners of 2 languages.
Research from Olivos and Lucero maintains that instruction in the heritage language for native Spanish speakers will help students be connected with their generational family and family language, which leads to heritage preservation. So this is me speaking from experience in my classroom with my families and my students. I have had many Spanish-speaking parents share gratitude that the program has helped introduce and reinforce their heritage and bring in the whole family closer to their roots. And some of our staff members, myself included, ever since joining the DLI team, I have really learned more about my own culture, and even my household has started practicing things that we've never done before, such as El Día de los Muertos. At the same time, our parents from diverse cultural backgrounds have expressed gratitude for the students genuinely learning about new cultures and customs and being authentically immersed in them. But one thing that I think is really important about this is that before I was in a DLI classroom, I have had students who have not been able to communicate with their grandparents or great-grandparents, and the DLI program is bridging this gap that we've had across generations. And now I have had parents tell me and letting me know that they're thankful that they are able, their children are able to communicate, which is a blessing because they have siblings who have not been in the DLI and cannot communicate, and the younger ones are able. Can you imagine not being able to communicate with your grandparents or great-grandparents? So that is something that is very powerful that this program brings. And then the partnership model between the school and parents is where the central goal is to support the success of all the children. In this model, parents and teachers engage in two-way communication to identify children's requirements, recognize parental strengths, and leverage school resources. Partnership involves a collaborative approach where joint problem solving is embraced and active participation is encouraged among the school, parents, and broader community. The DLI program, parents are heavily involved in the classrooms, and they help out with rotation stations just like you would in any other classroom, but especially during heritage celebrations, that's where you see a lot of the families come in and help out, and they help run activities and celebrations as well. As we know, studies have shown that parent engagement helps students become more successful in school. And another important factor, something that I think is very powerful here is, even though parent involvement, we do see it in our non-DLI classes and DLI classes, but who is the one there helping out? We have parents who may not be your strongest English speakers, who would never be involved helping out in a classroom, but now they are able to help students and feel confident and empowered and feel valued in a classroom that in the past was probably never an option for them. So that is something that's really important that I wanted to share.
Thank you.
I love this quote. The Latino immigrant children, for Latino immigrant children, Spanish is the key that unlocks the untranslatable wisdom of their elders. It is a source of self-knowledge, a form of cultural capital, by Salomon. So Spanish is more than just the language spoken at home. It is a link to their family's history and cultural identity. Through the language, children gain access to stories, traditions, and wisdom that might otherwise be difficult to understand in a different language. Salomon's quote beautifully frames language as both a bridge and a treasure. By recognizing and valuing the language, we ensure that these children have access to a fuller, richer sense of identity and connection to their heritage, which we all know that can have a lasting positive impact on their academic and personal lives. So all this reinforces the importance of dual language programs.
All right. Well, thanks to you all for inviting me to come back and share. So in addition to the testimonials that have already been provided and a lot of the research that's already been shared, we actually embarked on a longitudinal study in collaboration with Dr. Pursoon as the principal at Canalino School and Dr. Carlos Pagan at the County Education Office to try to collect data here locally to better understand what kind of impacts the dual language program was having at Canalino School, where it was first implemented in Carpinteria. As you know, since 2017, I think you invited me here actually after the first year and I came and presented, but since 2017, it's been a bit eventful in Carpinteria and also in the world. So we've had the Thomas Fire and the subsequent mudslides that disrupted our school year. And then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. And so as excited as I was to embark in this 7-year longitudinal study, I was dismayed by the unfortunate timing of all of these events that obviously are going to have impacts on the children and families that were served during that time in our schools. So I kind of want to put that up front just as a caveat to some of the results that I'm going to try to share. And I try to illustrate the timing of COVID in particular in the charts that I'm about to share. So the design that we chose to use was actually quite efficient and powerful. It's called an accelerated longitudinal design, and I used this chart to illustrate what it actually accomplished. And so prior to the implementation of dual language immersion, we followed the traditional model, which was English immersion. And then in between kind of the traditional model that existed prior to 2017 and the implementation of dual language immersion, we also collaborated with Dr. Carlos Pagan and Dr. Pursoon in developing some structured designated English language development strategies that were implemented in some of the classrooms at Canalino. And so we had 3 different cohorts of students who were receiving 3 distinct types of instruction. And so the question that we tried to address in the data that we collected in the analyses that I'm about to share is how did these 3 different instructional experiences differentially influence the development of the children who received these different forms of instruction. So we had one group who had English immersion with the integrated ELD, where English language development was integrated throughout the school day, but it was not a designated set-aside time. Then we had the English immersion group who had designated 30 minutes of evidence-based designated English language development time. And then finally, the last cohorts of students were in the dual language immersion program. And as Dr. Pursoon described earlier, they also received some additional targeted language supports in the in their non-dominant language throughout the school day. So you can see here that over time, the students who received the kind of traditional model mostly got through Canalino School before the disruption of COVID-19. The designated ELD students were almost about finished when COVID hit, and then the DLI students, unfortunately, were very early in their academic careers, and so they were disproportionately affected by the disruptions related to COVID-19. Yet despite the disruptions that came along with COVID-19, we still see some pretty robust findings in the data that show some significant benefits to participation in the dual language immersion program and bilingualism in general. And so if you're looking at this particular slide, you can see that the 3 different conditions are represented in the 3 columns that are in the graph. And on each column, you can see that there's a data point on the left that represents where their executive functioning was at the end of grade 3. And on the right is where those students were rated in their executive functioning at the end of grade 5. The blue lines represent students who are designated as English only, and the orange lines are representative of students who are designated as English learners. And so you can see that as we predicted, students in the dual language immersion program had significantly higher levels of executive functioning, both in terms of the English learners and the English only students during 3rd grade, and then and that was mostly pre-COVID times for these students in terms of their academic time. And then in grade 5, there was a little bit of a flattening, but still both the English learner and the English only students in DLI outperformed similar cohorts of students who got different instructional approaches in the IELD and DELD conditions. So I want to focus more specifically on 3rd grade because that was the time point that was less impacted by COVID-19. In this graph, you can see that it's a stacked colored bar graph, and it indicates the percentage of students who showed no concerns in the area of executive functioning. And executive functioning, just in brief, is students' abilities to regulate their cognition, to problem solve, be strategic in their thinking. That sort of thinking is what we were trying to capture with executive functioning. And you can see in this particular graph that the students who participated in the dual language program, 94% of them were rated at a level that was considered no concern or higher levels of executive functioning. And there were still large percentages of students in the other instructional conditions who were rated in that same range in terms of their executive functioning, but it was significantly fewer students than the students in dual language immersion. And this is consistent with some of the research that was already highlighted by my co-presenters that shows that bilingualism, multilingualism is related to person's better ability to kind of manage their own cognitive processes. And that was backed up with the data that we collected. And then this graph shows the language proficiency trajectories of students who, again, were designated as English-only students, even though there weren't English-only students in the dual language program. They were becoming bilingual. And you can see on the left side is their Spanish language proficiency trajectory, and on the right side is their English language proficiency trajectory. And the students in the DLI program are represented on the blue line, and the students in the other two conditions are represented with the green and the red lines. And you can see that at some point in these lines, they go dotted, and that dottedness is indicative of when COVID-19 hit. So you can see it's pretty clear, and for obvious reasons, that students who were designated as English-only students who were in the dual language program had significantly better Spanish language proficiency than their English-only peers who had no instruction in Spanish. I think that's pretty obvious. But what's more interesting in this particular slide is you can see on the right that their English language proficiency trajectories actually followed quite closely with the trajectories of English language proficiency for EO students in the English immersion conditions that preceded DLI. And even after COVID occurred, there was some flattening toward the end. You can see with the blue line, it kind of flattens toward the far right side, but still stayed in approximately the same range as the students in terms of their English proficiency who had English immersion instruction throughout their time. This shows the exact same graph, but for students who are designated as English learners or multilingual learners. And again, you can see on the left that the students who were in the DLI program showed significantly better Spanish language proficiency than their predominantly Spanish-speaking peers who were not in the DLI program in Carpinteria. And then on the right side shows their English language proficiency trajectories, which again, showed some flattening post-COVID, but before COVID, we're following what we would expect to be a slightly delayed timeline compared to their peers who were in English immersion classrooms receiving much more exposure to the English language. But over time, the research shows that particularly from grades 3 to 5, that gap tends to continue to narrow. In this particular context, it didn't narrow as much as we might have hoped, but again, I believe a lot of that had to do with the impacts of COVID-19, and so I'd interpret that finding with a bit of caution. And then finally, I just want to highlight this particular finding, which I think was supported by many of the testimonials that were provided by the principals who already spoke. But one of the most robust findings of the study was the profound impact that the DLI program has had on the campuses in terms of their campus culture and climate. And this was reflected in the data that were reported back by both the staff and the parents at the school in terms of how open and comfortable the campuses seem to parent engagement, and parent engagement from parents of many different backgrounds. And so you can see that on the far right of the staff bars, which go to 2022, 2023, so it's 2 years old at this point, that was the highest percentage of staff that reported that they strongly agreed that the school encouraged parent involvement or engagement. And the highest percentage in the last 5 years for parents was also observed in the most recent data point that we had in 2022, 2023 in terms of their feelings that they strongly agreed that campuses were open to their involvement. Thank you.
Okay, so here we have the scores of a group of students within the state testing, the English language arts. So first I'm going to direct you to look to the left. We're going to focus on our DLI students, okay? So these groups of students, in 2022, they were in 3rd grade. Keep in mind that when they were in 3rd grade, or up until 3rd grade, that's when they started receiving more instruction in English, okay? Because you might be looking at this data and think, whoa, that's 28%, that's pretty low. But as the years go on and they receive more targeted instruction in English, those numbers will go up and you'll see growth. So overall, when they were in 3rd grade, they were at 28% at or above standard. And by the time they made it to 5th grade, 60%. If we break it down and look at just our students who come from an English-speaking household, 45% students were at or above at 3rd grade. After 5th grade, they were at 91% at or above. And if you look at our Spanish-speaking students, they were at 6%, and at the end, 22%, okay? if we look at our non-DLI students, when they were in third grade, overall, 50% were at or above, and by the time they were in fifth grade, they were at 40%. Same thing with, we're gonna break it down with our English-speaking students. 57% were at and above, and we had an increase there to 60%. And then the Spanish-speaking students from 40%, they went to 31%. And some may be thinking as well, if we look at our Spanish students from our DLI program and our non-DLI program, besides having the instruction, right, most of their life they've had instruction in Spanish, so they've had to make tremendous growth. A lot of our students who are in the DLI program come from Spanish only, not bilingual, but a lot of them are just no Spanish, which is where you see a little difference. But again, as they go on throughout the years, there's so much growth right there.
All right, as we look at the 23-24 mathematics scores, we see some encouraging trends for our DLI students. So in 2023, 55% of the third grade DLI students met or exceeded grade level expectations in math. That number increased to 67% for those same students in fourth grade in 2024. When we break it down further, we look at the English dominant students in DLI went from 69% to 80%. And those Spanish-speaking dominant students made growth from 33 to 47%. So it's also important to note that the DLI program delivers math instruction in Spanish. This means that students are not only learning rigorous math content, but also building their academic Spanish language skills at the same time. In comparison, the non-DLI students showed a decrease in performance over the same period of time. While this data reflects the performance of Catalino students, we're excited this year to gather data from our LISO DLI students for the first time as they participate in the state assessment. And then we look forward to analyzing that data to continue to improve instruction and support all learners, especially as our DLI program continues to grow at LISO.
Okay, I'm back. So where we are now, so Carpinteria Middle School leadership, that's me and a group of people in the DLI program already, is planning for the 2025-2026 DLI classes in American History and Spanish Language Arts. And in 2026 and 2027, Dr. Pursoon and Gerardo Cornejo, the principal at the high school, and staff will plan the pathway from 9th grade until graduation. And this semester in 2025, researchers from UCSB will be studying the DLI program at the Carpinteria Middle School. So that would be, we're following it all the way through with research. And I think that's it. Any questions for any of us?
I just want to comment, Jamie. As I pass St. Joseph's and the ESL classes that they hold there, it appears there are more and more cars and more people.
Yes.
Are you guys going to start tracking how many of your parents are now they're learning English?
That's definitely something we should look at, yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you very much. As an advocate for this program from the beginning, I'm really happy to see its success. So, looking at the I'm looking at reclassification.
Mm-hmm.
How have we tracked that? So, how many of our students? I think we've talked about it in the past, but I think for everybody else, it'd be nice to see how many of our Spanish speakers in the DLI program have been reclassified by at each successive grade level, or are we doing that, and are we waiting until 5th or 6th grade?
No, we are tracking that, and we can definitely get that data to you. I can tell you that at the middle school, it's less and less people in ELD, and it's really great if they can be reclassified so that they can get an elective instead of doing ELD. But we can get that information for you. Yes.
Okay. And then as far as because this has always been a thing when Aliso and Catalino come together at the middle school, you have some conflict generally. Are you seeing a little less conflict now? I mean, in the past we've seen conflict. Are you seeing less, same?
So the current sixth grade group is a huge group together, and they kind of mesh together. We don't really have anything between sixth graders.
Okay, that's great. And then how much, and maybe this is a question for Dr. Quirk, how much of this achievement, I guess, growth would you attribute to, the ELI program is probably attracting more higher achieving families and students versus the families that choose not to participate in the program?
Well, actually, I think you guys might know better than I who's choosing to participate and who's not. I only have anecdotal knowledge, so I don't know if you can speak to that.
Our program is 33, 33, 33.
Mhm.
So it's bilingual families, and then Spanish-speaking families, and then English-speaking families. So that's kind of how it goes. But sometimes we don't have enough for
I mean, I know that's a very
bilingual.
difficult question
Yeah.
to answer, but it's really great to see the growth in
Yeah. The scores.
I mean, it's not good to see the decline in our Spanish speakers in the regular non-DLI classes. I think that's an area where we need to focus on.
Mhm.
But I guess I'm just wondering if those students weren't in the DLI program,
Mhm.
would those scores in the regular classes be better?
So what I can say is, having done Matt was on my dissertation chair. So a lot of it has to do with parent engagement.
Yes, I know.
So that students generally achieve much more when they have parent engagement. And the behavior tends to be a little bit better or also. So I can't give you any data about that, but what I've seen over the years, that the students are more successful with parent engagement.
So how do we
Transfer that to everybody?
to everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire school needs to be DLI, right?
Well, I mean, that's one way to look at it, but I'm thinking we're not going to go there probably, but I'm just wondering how you can, mimic that engagement, or at least encourage that level of engagement with the other families and families, really the parents, in the rest of the.
And I think that's happening at the middle school now. So a lot of parents there's 2 years of DLI at the middle school, and then you were there when we were doing the color run. So it kind of becomes kind of contagious that, oh yes, now we're going to be at the middle school. So and then we have people in the middle school at lunch, and middle school doing chaperones and things. So it's an effect that we can push, and have other parents telling other parents, oh yes, we should go to the middle school, we should go to open house, we should be a chaperone. So those kinds of things help. But yes, and also some students don't get into the DLI program because their parents aren't aware of it until, years after. So we have to continue to be really spreading the word for our students and our families.
Well, and maybe the message is that if you are a native Spanish speaker, the key to success is the DLI program.
Yes,
That
we are
fair to say?
a little
I mean-
concerned about the 6 and up to the 21 or whatever it was before. But it is because they have not had English instruction until pretty much 4th and 5th grade. So that's what we see there.
I just had a question on numbers. So what size is the cohort group? I mean, how many students total are we tracking in this data set?
About 57. So it's 2
okay.
classes for each year. So they will have the 2 classes in English or Spanish language arts and ancient civilization in Spanish in 6th grade. And then 7th grade, we're doing global studies in Spanish and Spanish language arts 7. And then right now we're working on Spanish language 8 and then American Studies in Spanish. And we have the curriculum for all that already.
And then is there any referencing to other school districts that are involved in the DLI program?
Yes, we have a whole, there's like a whole coalition. We were kind of the first ones out, except for Adelante Charter School, which has been going on for a long, long time. Those scores aren't great, but we have a different model here, and then we have 11 other schools that have come to Catalino and do that same model.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. Is it apples to apples? Are the schools doing it differently enough that, yeah,
I think it's similar, but it's never going to be the same.
yeah, okay.
But all of our principals here and having Dr. Quirk here, we kind of always are analyzing our program and looking at the data and seeing what we need to do next.
I was just going to say that Teresa, I'm going to put you on the spot, who's back there, who's with CCP, Children's Project. She and I have talked about encouraging parents at the stage that her children are at. So I think the earlier you get parents involved, the better for all of us. Better for them, better for parents, better for the school district.
What? So, so have you tracked the students at Adelante in Santa Barbara?
I have not.
Has anybody? Yeah, and have they seen the same growth or trends throughout their? I mean, because they haven't.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know.
They don't have that kind of data.
Oh, they
don't have
don't.
the comparison.
Oh, they don't.
No, because they only have DLI students.
Yeah, but they go on to high school, right? They go on to Santa Barbara, DP, and San Marcos.
And so you're asking,
I'm
do
just
they
I'm
track
just
them in
curious if
terms
they
of-
track them as far as their achievement in the higher grades.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You know.
We can
All right.
contact them and ask.
Well, I think on their CASP, like on the CASP scores,
Yeah.
like at the different grade levels, like Adelante versus where we're at, and what does that look like? And I mean, if we have a coalition that we're kind of looking at, and what are you doing? Oh, we're doing a little better on this one, but you're doing a little better on that one. Do we have the latitude to make those types of adjustments to how we?
Yeah,
we do
that's through the
things?
Santa Barbara County Ed Office, and so I work with them quite a bit and have done for a long time, and we keep in touch with Carlos Pagan. Just this weekend we were talking about it, and Ellen, we were talking about it. So it's kind of very popular to talk about DLI right now.
So I have a few questions.
Sure.
Looking at the Grade 3 Global Executive Composite, this page. Okay, so I mean, and I'm using this as an example, but for the three cohorts that we've looked at through all of this, the DELD, the IELD, and then the DLI, were all three of those opt-in? Were the kids in each of those categories? Like I know DLI was opt-in.
So
That was for the IELD and the DELD. Were those students opt-in to those as well?
So the IELD was literally just everyone in the grade level because that was their only option.
Okay.
The DELD, those were actually predominantly English learner students. That was just part of the design because I wanted to understand how the designated English language development affected other variables that we were looking at. So most of those students are designated as English learners, but it wasn't an opt-in. It was
Okay, I'm trying to understand. To my point, what I'm going towards is when we're comparing them and we're talking about parent engagement and parent involvement. Typically, in any program that's an opt-in, you're going to have more engaged parents. Period,
Yes.
and therefore more support at home and more resources and more parent involvement in the classroom and all the things. And so, just trying to put in perspective where these students are at. Are they in a home? Were their parents saying, yes, I want to be in this program, I want to be in that program, as opposed to the DLI program? And so just the intentionality of them being in that program, did that have, or not, does that play into outcomes?
I would
don't
say
know.
that DELD and IELD is probably more representative of the general student population because they weren't opt-in,
Yeah.
and then the DLI potentially could be impacted by what you had just described. The other thing I'll say that came to mind is we were talking about test scores and about some of the things that we're seeing in the data. It's also important to remember that the data we tracked, these were the first 2 cohorts to go through the DLI program that Dr. Pursoon was building out year by year. So these teachers were literally teaching their DLI program for the first or maybe the second time. So it would be my anticipation that these scores would only improve over time, not just because of the disruptions related to COVID, but as teachers obviously get more and more opportunities to refine their curriculum and their delivery of instruction, I would expect them to just get better and better at doing so.
Yeah. And then moving on to some of the other charts, and I don't know if this is just completely coincidental or not, but in the language development in English and Spanish for multilingual learners, on the right-hand side, the mean English IPT scores over time for DLI is right about at the 50% mark. And that is also at the point where we are 50-50 in our teaching. And I'm wondering if there is a correlation there.
So the way that the assessment, this is in English?
Because both actually, both actually, Spanish and English, they're both at about the 50% mark.
So the way that those scores are calculated is the Spanish scores are actually calculated in relation to a norming sample of monolingual Spanish-speaking children. And the English scores are compared to a sample of monolingual English-speaking children. And so essentially what those are showing is that they're kind of in that middle range in comparison to monolingual speakers in both of those languages.
I find it interesting, this is specifically the multilingual learners, and they're at 50-50. At the year, they are at 50-50. So I just, maybe it's totally coincidental, but I find it interesting as compared to some of the others, that cohort that has a foot in each world really does. Okay. Looking at standardized test scores, which I am not ever a fan of in general, but we're going to use this because this is what we have. I find it really interesting that when we look at the math, the achievement there in the DLI over the non-DLI for English and Spanish students. My understanding of what I have seen in my own student who's a participant in DLI is they get a much more intimate understanding of numbers, of how math works, math at its core versus the words around it. And it's just a deeper core understanding because they may not fully understand all the other, like in a word problem around, hopefully they do, but they may not. And so they're having this much deeper understanding of math and the numbers in a way that my other kids who have long past this elementary age didn't. And I know math standards and the way we teach math has changed significantly from the time my first was at elementary to my third. But at the same time, his ability and what I see from his peers, their ability to understand the numbers is very different than what I see of peers who are not necessarily in the DLI program. And that's not a blanket statement. That's just my observation. But I think it definitely has some footing in there. And then for English language arts, I'm not sure what the answer is. I get that they were just, the introduction of English language, actual instruction and grammar and all the things is just beginning. around third grade, really. And so they're technically behind the ball compared to their cohort, their peers in a English only class. And I don't know, what is sorry. I feel like I've seen this before, but or heard it. Is there a goal or a target year to where they are caught up, if you will? Like, do we expect by a certain grade that the DLI cohort, so
Fifth
by
grade.
fifth, so the 24 year, those numbers should be closer?
Yes.
Okay. And do we, I mean, well, I know we've talked, we've had disruptions through that, and so it's difficult, but at the same time, those other students also had the disruptions. Granted, they had English the whole time as far as languaging, but is there concern there, and is there something that needs to be adjusted or has been adjusted to help move those students further along, to get them more or closer at closing that gap with their English-only class peers?
So for English or Spanish language arts and English language arts, I am pretty pleased with the English and all, but we are concerned about the 6% for third grade up to 22, which is a good, making it better. But that's something we're going to be looking at. And also we are looking at students who may not be benefiting from the DLI program. So those are things that we're looking at right now. But it is related to the fact that they haven't had English instruction and it's only 40% in third grade, so we don't really expect that until fifth grade.
Okay. Okay, I think that was it for me. Thank you. Yes, please.
Just want to mention that we're not isolated. So we collaborate with teachers from Santa Maria, from Lompoc, Santa Barbara. We created Santa Barbara County CABE, and so teachers will continue to have professional development. We're planning a big conference this summer, free, and so we're really, really excited for teachers to continue with their professional development in Espanol.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. We good? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Great job. Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving on to F, board policies. If you would like to make public comment on F, board policies, this is the time. Please step up to the podium now.
Alrighty, thank you. For those in the community that have had the unique pleasure of trying to secure information the district does not want to provide, these otherwise mundane sounding board policies are pretty significant. Although CUSD summarizes the 1340 as access to district records and states the governing board recognizes the right of members of the public to have access to public records of the district, this has certainly not been the district's practice under Ms. Rigby or our current board officials. For those unfamiliar with the process, CUSD is required to respond to such requests in 10 days of receiving said information request, and then they are required to produce the requested information as promptly as possible if it cannot be fully produced in that 10-day window. The policy states that information requests be handled by government officials. We could find nothing in the policy that permits outside vendors, such as the district's legal counsel, Ms. Rigby's it appears, personal attorneys, to intervene in the process or make determinations associated with these requests. Nonetheless, CUSD's practice has been to pass information requests on to their well-paid legal counsel, 3F Law, who then spend hours and hours of billable time providing cover for the district. Union leadership and those we work with still have several requests outstanding, some well over a year old that remain just partially resolved, some unfulfilled, and others, in a few cases, not responded to at all. As a community member shared just a few days ago, F2, item F2, access to district records is interesting, as they being CUSD, have been very slow and always respond via their legal staff. Fortunately, the new policy closes many loopholes the district and its legal counsel have hid behind for several years. The variety of data available for request is better defined, such as the inclusion of text messages, phone data, communication on personal devices, and handwritten notes from board meetings. Executed contracts for the purchase of goods and services, even if the contract contains provisions specifying that the contract is confidential or proprietary, or a proprietary record of the vendor. That's Government Code 7928.801. All that said, union leadership is pleased to mention an improvement on this topic. Since the arrival of Mr. Caff, the district has proven that it can, on occasion, produce information without excessive involvement by CUSD's legal counsel. Of the few information requests sent directly to Mr. Caff, the majority have been responded to in a timely and fairly comprehensive manner. Unfortunately, this is far from normal for the information requests sent to either Ms. Rigby, our Human Resource Department, Ms. Pursoon, and select other district administrators. So, thank you.
Any further public comment on F, board policies? Okay. We're going to begin with F1, Board Policy, Administrative Regulation, and Exhibit 1312.2, Complaints Concerning Instructional Materials, First Reading. The Board is asked to approve the first reading of BPAR and E 1312.2, Complaints Concerning Instructional Materials. The Governing Board uses a comprehensive process to adopt district instructional materials that is based on selection criteria established by law and board policy, and includes instructional materials, and includes opportunities for the involvement of district staff, parents, guardians, and community members, and as appropriate students. Complaints concerning the content or use of instructional materials, including textbooks, supplementary instructional materials, library materials, or other instructional materials and equipment, shall be properly and fairly considered using established complaint procedures. Any questions from the board on F1? No? Okay. This is just a first reading, no action.
We have to approve the first reading.
Approve the first reading, okay. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve board policy and administrative regulation and exhibit 1312.2.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, F2, Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 1340, Access to District Records, first reading. The board is asked to approve the first reading of BP and AR 1340, Access to District Records. The governing board recognizes the right of members of the public to have access to public records of the district. The district shall provide any person reasonable access to the public records of the school and district during normal business hours and within the requirements of law. Public access shall not be given to records listed as exempt from public disclosure in the California Public Records Act and other state or federal law. Any questions from the board? Okay. May I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve board policy 1340.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second for BP and AR 1340. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to educational services, G. If you would like to make public comment on anything under G, educational services, please step up to the podium at this time.
Okay, so we're going to keep this one short. We just ask that you please support the Nature Explorer outdoor classroom at Aliso Elementary School. It is in keeping with the recent recognition it's earned and deserved. And employees really want to thank First Five of Santa Barbara for covering the total cost of $20,000 that's being paid for by First Five Santa Barbara grant funds. Okay, thank you. G1,
Educational Services, proposal for conceptual design service for one Nature Explore outdoor classroom at Aliso Elementary School, an agreement for services of independent contractor between First Five of Santa Barbara County and Carpinteria Unified School District. Board is asked to approve the proposal for conceptual design services. Nature Explore is a national nonprofit program of Dimensions Educational Research Foundation, which provides research-based outdoor classroom design services, educator workshops, a certification program, and field-tested natural products. Their goal is to help support students, staff, and children by making nature an integral, joyful part of daily learning. The total cost of $20,000 will be paid with First Five Santa Barbara grant funds. Any questions from the board on this?
No.
Nope.
this
Okay.
is-
May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve with great gratitude.
I'll second.
Okay, and now discussion.
I just think, I had the opportunity to attend the First Five breakfast a couple weeks ago up in Lompoc, and Dr. Quirk was there giving us he gave us a pretty good overview of a lot of the data and programs he's been tracking, but the First Five is doing a lot of really great work in Santa Barbara County, and I'm in our former board member Michelle Robertson is assistant director up there, and she's doing a great job. They're doing a great job, and I want to thank them.
Yeah, agreed. Just looking at the proposal and the samples that were provided within there of what the work that is proposed is just amazing, and so really excited for this incredibly unique work that's going to get done at Aliso. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, G2, Amplify Reading Difficulties Screener and Professional Development. The board is asked to adopt Amplify M-Class with Dibbles Edition 8 and M-Class Lectura as the reading difficulties screener for the 25-26 school year, and approve purchase of professional development and licenses for implementation of the screening instruments for the 25-26 school year. The cost for professional development and licenses for the first 2 years of implementation is $37.50 and will be paid with the implementation of the reading difficulty screening instrument funds. Questions from the board? Okay. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to H, Business Operations and Facilities. If you'd like to make public comment on H, please step up to the podium at this time.
Thank you, Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. Okay, the warrants. I read two bills, legal fees, negotiation, dismissals, and the other one for sex abuse of the 70s. Have a problem. We have a problem since 2017. I mean, first 6 months of 2016, and the end of 2016, district attorneys would settle, negotiate. I was there. They tend to give a closer look at what could be settled or not. Now, whatever your attorneys do, they're wrong. They're giving you the wrong advice. Attorneys, they don't have friends. They only have clients. So what attorneys do, the first thing is that, okay, who's the client? Do they have money? They always tell you, we can win, but they can't. They don't care whether they win, whether they lose, or they settle. They will always collect. negotiations, dismissals. How much money has been spent on negotiations the last 6, 7 years? A lot. What about the other districts? What did they do? I mean, that's why they have a superintendent, HR, assistant superintendent, to negotiate with the attorneys. Regardless, now, the sex abuse. I mean, why did it appear first on the San Francisco Chronicle? Huge, huge newspaper. But first, and then I read it on Facebook. Why? Why was that?
Thank you. Your time is up. Any further public comments on H, business operations and facilities?
Yes, once again, approximately 10% of this evening's warrants, over $138,000, were spent on attacks on union leadership and outsourcing the collective bargaining process. Thank you for mentioning that, Mr. Delgado. That's over $138,000 that can now be added to the $3.5 million CUSD investment in the same. What a train wreck your collective leadership has proven to be. Were there more time, we'd review the long list of investments that over $3.5 million could have otherwise been used to secure investments that will never be made in CUSD students or employees or district families because of the gross misappropriation of funds that you have all been a part of. In the remaining time, employees offer observations on the district's budget presentation. In a nutshell, a clear example of overestimating expenditures and underestimating revenues. But let's look at the PowerPoint itself. We'll start by pointing your attention to page 5. Even with the strategic underestimation of property tax revenues, this chart clearly demonstrates that CUSD is in the top 4% of the most robustly funded TK-12 districts in the state. This is due to our basic aid status. The problem in CUSD is not that we don't receive sufficient funds, but rather the gross mismanagement and misappropriation of the funds that we do receive. Where 96% of the districts in the state are projected to receive about 7% in revenue increases between 24-25 and 26-27, CUSD is projected to receive over 15%, more than double the revenue increases. And that is after reducing your projections by over 2% each year. Before that accounting trick in January, CUSD was projected to receive over 21% in revenue increases, and if passed as precedent, CUSD will receive over 21% in revenue increases when the actual money comes in. If we look at page 8, a more misleading page would be hard to find unless you were looking at other pages in this PowerPoint. The district makes a big to-do about the 22-23 salary increase. It fails to acknowledge that the primary reason the increase was pegged at 8 and 10% in 22-23 was because these employees' total compensation was in the bottom quartile of districts in the region. The 22-23 salary increase was not intended to justify the district's refusal to provide future salary increases in years out, but rather to begin to reverse the district's notorious and historic trend of being the worst paying district in the region. A reality that has led to high employee turnover, economic instability of the workforce, district employees' inability to reside in the community they work, and the variety of challenges that those conditions cause in the teaching and learning environment. Similarly, the district would, shucks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Your
thank
time
you.
is up. Okay. Moving on to H1, warrants. The board is asked to approve the warrants for the period of March 7th, 2025 through April 3rd, 2025 in the amount of $1,370,671.17. Warrants are issued once a week on Thursdays. The report format shows check number, check date, payee, brief account description, and payment comment and check amount. Any questions from the board on the warrants? Okay. May I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the warrants.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. H2, gifts, grants, donations. We have 2A. I'm going to read them all, and then we'll do one motion once I read through them all. 2A, a donation from Kevin Nimmons and Janelle Parsons to Carpinteria High School Science Club CHS. The board is asked to accept the donation from Kevin Nimmons and Janelle Parsons of $150 to Carpinteria High School Science Club for their Channel Islands trip. 2B, donation from Timothy Fringer to CHS FFA Club. We're asked to accept this donation from Timothy in the amount of $300 to the FFA Club for Art Fringer Memorial. We have 2C, a donation from Brent Newport to CHS FFA Club. We're asked to accept his donation in the amount of $100 for the Art Fringer Memorial. 2D, donation from Mark T. Wagner to CHS FFA Club. We're asked to accept this donation from Mark of $150 to the CHS FFA Club for Art Fringer Memorial. 2E, donation from LaCentra Summerlin to the Associated Student Body Carpinteria High School Engineering Club. We're asked to accept a donation from LaCentra Summerlin of $12,000 to ASB CHS Engineering Club for the purchase of equipment, supplies for student passion projects. 2F, a donation from Rochelle Minnis to CMS. The board is asked to accept the donation from Rochelle Minnis of various office furniture of an approximate value of $1,000 to Carpinteria Middle School or any other school or location of the Carpinteria Unified School District. 2G, a donation from the Santa Barbara Bowl Foundation Instrument Fund to teacher Nicole McKenzie for musical instruments. The board is asked to accept this donation from the Santa Barbara Bowl Foundation in the amount of $6,474.60 to teacher Nicole McKenzie for the purchase of violins for Aliso and Canalino. 2H, technology grant donation from Santa Barbara Education Office to Aliso teacher Amber Neely. We're asked to accept this grant from SBCEO of $1,000 for teacher Amber Neely Ozobot coding robots. 2I, instructional strategy team member grant donation from Santa Barbara Education Office to Carpinteria Middle School teacher Christina Pena Eckert. We're asked to accept this instructional strategy team member grant donation from SBCEO of $500 to CMS teacher Christina Pena Eckert for classroom books. 2J, instructional strategy team member grant donation from Santa Barbara County Education Office to Canalino teacher Katrina Carrillo in the amount, we're asked to accept this in the amount of $500 for Ms. Carrillo for classroom supplies for writing strategies. 2K, instructional strategy team member grant donation from Santa Barbara County Education Office to Canalino teacher Christina Garcia. The board is asked to accept the instructional strategy team member grant donation from SBCEO of $500 to Canalino teacher Christina Garcia for classroom supplies for writing strategies. Okay. We have a lot of gifts, grants, and donations, and I would just like to give my thanks to everybody on this list, A through K, for whatever your reason for donating, but ultimately to support our students, and we are incredibly grateful. I do have a question, and maybe Andy will know. Do you know anything about the Art Fringer Memorial?
I do.
Can you share something about that with us?
So Art Fringer he grew up in Carpinteria. His family was here for a long time. And he was an avid participant in the FFA program under Mr. Johnson, Walter Johnson. And he led a very successful animal, I think swine judging and vegetable judging team back in the early 1980s. And I believe they won some, first place at state level. He went on to Fresno State, met his wife, and they settled in Modesto. And he had a successful career, and he unfortunately passed away recently. He wasn't very old. He was just a year or two older than me. And his daughter graciously has, I think we've previously passed or approved a donation from his daughter and the family for this memorial. And so the idea is we're going to put together a plaque and use the funds to support the school farm. I don't think there's a complete final plan on what to do with the money, but I know that Ms. Garcia has graciously accepted the money and is looking forward to doing something very special. And I know there's other alumni who are going to participate with volunteerism and provide materials and things.
Great.
But yeah, Art was a really good guy, and unfortunately his father also passed away just subsequent to this. So anyhow.
Well,
good
thank you
family.
for sharing what that is. It seemed important to highlight who that was, and obviously somebody important
Well,
to
and
our
these
community.
and these
these donations
yeah,
are
and
showing
so
that.
the first donation is actually from his mother and father, Tim Fringer, and then the second two were from other alumni who grew up here.
So, okay, we have a motion. Yes, did we get a motion? No. Okay, may I get a? Oh, that's right. Okay, we did questions first. Okay, may I get a motion to approve 2A through K?
I'll move to approve as presented.
I second that.
Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay. Moving on to H3, approve services by Watkins Fence Company to upgrade the CHS FFA farm facility. We're asked to approve the services from Watkins Fence Company to upgrade and conduct maintenance on the CHS farm facility to repair 19 gates at the farm and animal pens and install bird netting. The total cost of $11,994 will be paid with a donation from La Centra Summerlin Foundation. Any questions? Okay. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Just going to be a great upgrade to the
Really?
farm.
Terrific.
That bird netting has lived its life.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Number 4, approve services from McCall and M&M for upgrades to the FFA farm facility. The board is asked to approve the services by McCall and M&M for upgrading and conducting maintenance on the CHS farm facility to clean waste gutters, pump waste, clear all sand from holding tank, and dispose of and add 3 custom drain covers. Total cost of McCall and M&M of $10,112 will be paid with CEF CTE funds. Any questions from the board? Okay, may I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Again, this will be a good maintenance upgrade for the facility. Probably alleviate some of the odors.
Odors, flies,
Flies,
things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5, approve services from McCall and M&M and Reed Mechanical Systems for a heat pump replacement at People Services Building.
Excuse me, that's a typo. It's approved services for McCall and M&M.
Not Reed Mechanical.
Yeah,
Oh, not Reed Mechanical.
yeah, there were 2 estimates.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
McCall and M&M and Reed Mechanical Systems. McCall and M&M is one, is the name.
I got it here.
Is the other one?
Yeah.
Yes, but, yes, so we're only going to approve services for one company. See, we had 2 estimates, one from McCall M&M and one from Reed.
The only attached.
Yeah, McCall M&M is the attached
Yeah.
proposal.
Yeah, is the
Yeah.
attached proposal.
Yeah. Reed Mechanical probably would have been the other proposal.
Yes, and they,
And,
yes,
yeah,
we're only approving one.
the 2 estimates were as
Yeah.
follows.
Yeah, 2 different companies.
The McCall and M&M, gotcha,
Yeah.
was the attachment, which,
Yes.
okay.
It's one, yeah, 2 companies' estimates.
Thank you.
One company approved.
Okay, so we're being asked to approve the services of McCall and M&M for a heat pump replacement. The heat pump in the HVAC unit at Pupil Services is not functioning properly and needs to be replaced. The district contacted 3 vendors for replacement cost estimates, and only 2 of the 3 vendors contacted provided cost estimates. The 2 cost estimates were as follows: McCall and M&M of $12,121 and Reed Mechanical of $12,590. The district chose McCall and M&M estimate of $12,121 and will be paid with RRMA funds. Questions from the board? No. Okay, may I get a motion to approve the services of McCall and M&M?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay. Thank you for highlighting that there were multiple bids put out, and this is what we received.
Yes.
So thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are moving on to 6, 25-26 budget development. The board will continue reviewing and discussing the proposed 25-26 budget. Superintendent Rigby and Assistant Superintendent Caff will lead the presentation and development of the 25-26 budget.
Okay, well, I'd like to start off by, first of all, thanking the board for allowing me to do this presentation. It's very important that we all understand what's happening with regards to our 25-26 budget, because there are some significant changes that we're anticipating making. So on this slide, we have our district goals, which is, I believe this is similar. I think we've seen this once before in the past. And so for now, I'm just going to skip past this, and we'll come back to this at a later date. I wanted to start off by hitting some other items. On this next slide here, we have our core budgeting principles, which I think we've touched on before. And I'm going to advance past this one, but we'll come back to this here shortly. I thought it'd be important to highlight, at least on this slide, because this is a new slide, our budget timeline and the major milestones. So obviously now we're in April, and so what's happening is that at the state level, the governor is developing his May revise, which will be released basically in mid-May. Sorry about that, mid-May. And then at that point, we will make any changes to the budget that need be. But what's important to note is in the far right-hand side of that slide there, on June 10th, we will have the public hearing on the LCAP and also the public hearing on the budget. And then 2 weeks later, when we come back for the last meeting in June, on June 24th, we will have the adoption of the LCAP and the adoption of the budget. So basically, it's a 2-step process. First, both the LCAP and the budget have to come to the board, and then at a separate meeting, the LCAP and budget have to come back to the board for approval. So that's what we'll be seeing here in a couple months in June. Now, this next slide here is the governor's January proposal. And you'll notice here I've incorporated the latest projections for the LCFF and also our projected property taxes. I would like to highlight, once again, I know I've gone over this in the past, but for example, for the 24-25 projected property taxes, we are projecting at 5%. Unfortunately, nobody has a crystal ball. Neither the tax assessor nor our county office of education has a crystal ball. So what we do is we work off of projections. So information goes from the tax assessor's office to SBCEO, our county office. They take those numbers and they put it into a format that all public school districts in Santa Barbara County can use. And then they push those numbers out, so they push those projections out to the school districts in Santa Barbara County. So what we are using in 24-25 are the numbers that our county office recommended that we use for our 24-25 projections.
And sorry, just to stop you right there. We were projecting at 7%.
Yes.
Correct? And what we were told is that is no longer the number, and this is now that number, correct?
Yes. At budget adoption back in June of 2024, when the budget was adopted, we were projecting 7% for 24-25 this year, 7% for 25-26, and 7% for 26-27. When we got our revised numbers, P1, which is what they call it here, sometime in the fall. We were basically informed by the county office that we were over projecting our property taxes. And that 5% was probably more of a realistic number. And in fact, when we got our P1 projections from the county office, that's exactly where they came in at. And I think in a slide or two later, we'll see that, identified. But yes, you are correct. At budget adoption, those 3 years were 7%, but basically we were informed by the county office that those numbers were basically too high, and that 5% was more of a realistic number. And so when we budget, we try and budget with the best information possible. And so with that, we always try and budget with realistic numbers to the extent we can, because once again, what we're doing is we're projecting revenues and expenditures into the future. And so nobody has a crystal ball, so we have to go off of the best information we have at the time, and as time progresses, those projections sometimes change. So yes, that has changed. In the middle graph there, you'll see the pension rate increases for both CalPERS and CalSTRS. And as you can see from the past 5 years, at least for CalPERS, it's kind of steadily increasing. It's not too much. The CalSTRS rates have been relatively constant there at 19.1%. And then in the bottom graph, the third graph there on the page, that's the entire statutory benefits that are combined by PERS or STRS. And so what that means is if a person is classified, so then for the most part, they would fall into PERS. And so, for example, if we're looking this year, 24-25, for somebody in PERS, the district has to pay about 36.37% in addition to their salary. And so what composes that 36% is their PERS, the OASDI, Medicare, unemployment, workers' comp. So all those statutory benefits add up to make for this year about 36.3%. Right below that, we have the statutory benefits for people who are STRS. Now, theirs is a little bit less. If we're looking here at 24-25, for somebody who is in CalSTRS, their statutory benefits come to about 22.22%. So there is a difference between how the state deals with pensions when it comes to somebody who is in STRS and somebody who is PERS. And so here on the side, I just wanted to highlight that and bring that to the board's attention.
Sorry, just to clarify that middle.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry, just to clarify that middle chart is showing pension rate increases? Or is that, I mean, are you?
I think that's the amount.
That's the amount.
Yeah, it's not increasing that much.
Yeah, so we're not increasing by 27%.
Oh, no,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's just the rate, not the overall
Not,
chart. is
not the
showing-
rate increase, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, I just want to highlight that on this slide here. If we go over to the next slide, where it's entitled Sample Cost to District for Positions, what I think is important here is that sometimes when people hear how much a position costs, they would immediately think to how much that person gets in a salary, which is part of it. However, there are other things tied to that position that cost the district more money that they may not be aware of. For example, if we're looking, I've listed here classroom aide, custodian, and a teacher. So if we just look at the teacher, for example, for 183 days, where this person falls on the salary schedule is $82,942. But in addition to their salary, the district also has to pay their statutory benefits, which is what we saw on the previous slide. That's about $17,000. And then we also have to pay their health and welfare contribution. And so for the health and welfare contribution for next year, it's about $24,313. So on the district side, when we look at a cost of a position, we have to take into account the cost of the salary, the cost of the statutory benefits, and the health and welfare to get a total cost. So for example, a teacher who makes $82,000 for the entire year, if we incorporate their total cost to the district, then we have to, it looks like it costs us about $124,000 for an $82,000 teacher. So I just wanted to highlight that because sometimes I think that gets lost in translation. If we flip to the next slide here, we have the history of property tax revenues. We've seen this slide a couple times before. We've seen it at P1, which was in the fall, or excuse me, more in around December. And we also saw it at second interim as well. It has not changed as of yet because we have not received any new property tax projections from the county office. So we are still using the property tax projections that were given to us in October, November of '24. And you'll see if we look at the column for 24-25, we're anticipating an increase of the prior year of about $1.5 million, which equates to about a 5% increase. And since we're getting a 5% increase this year, and if we look back up to the first 5 or 6 rows on this graph, you'll notice that a consistent trend through all those years was about 5%. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, the county office gave us projections for 24-25, and those are basically 5%. We're going to use those same projections for the 25-26 year and for the 26-27 year. And that's why you're seeing those percentage increases for property taxes indicated at 5%. On the next slide here, we have the history of cost of living increases. You'll notice that for 21-22, it was 2%. For 22-23, it was split between certificated and classified, 8 and 10. You'll notice that underneath the years 23-24 and 24-25, there are stars there. There are stars there once again because, as we know, we have not concluded negotiations for 23-24 or 24-25 just yet. So that's why we have stars there. And just to provide some context, in the terms of cost of living increases, a 1% cost of living increase for this year, 24-25, equates to about $205,000. So that's kind of where that number sits for this year. So if we flip to the next slide, which is entitled History of Health and Welfare Increases, just if we just start the left-hand column and we just kind of go from left to right in 21-22, just choosing the top plan there. Our top plan was about $19,866. And as we go through the years, now in 25-26, that plan for next year for 25-26 is going to be about $24,313,000. So that increase for health and welfare from 25-26 to this year is about a 7.65% increase. And so what that means to the district is, district-wide, our health insurance costs will increase from this year to next year by about $422,000. Just recently, we got our updated rates for the next year, and that's basically where the numbers came in out. So from one year to the next, we're automatically going to see a cost in our health and welfare increase of about $422,000.
And just, sorry,
Yes, please.
from last year to this year, it was about the increase of,
So if we're looking at 24-25 to 25-26, just
About $1,000.
no, but like the overall, just that whole number, 270, yeah,
Yeah.
I know we said it a lot, thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
If we flip to the next slide, which is the 5-year financial history with the current year, we have laid out here our 5-year history, which at the bottom of the slide there, kind of highlighted in blue, light blue, you'll see the reserve percentage. And you'll kind of see the trend. It's constant, then it kind of jumps up, probably due to COVID funding. Then in 23-24, it drops significantly. As you may recall, in 23-24, we ended the year with about a 3.59% reserve. And in the next column over, which shows our second interim for this year, 24-25, and we're projected to end the year at this point with about 4.29% of a reserve. And you'll note that for both 23-24 and 24-25, those have asterisks because those do not reflect any salary increases for those years, because once again, we have not yet settled. But once we do settle, those percentages will change because they will incorporate the additional cost for salary and benefits. There we go. Yeah. If we flip to the next slide, which is the 5-year financial history for special education, I think we've seen this slide once or twice before, but you'll notice starting at the 2021 year, if we go down in 2021, the general fund had to contribute about $4.2 million to special ed for that program. And then you'll see it basically increase throughout each fiscal year. And if we go over to the far right, that's what our special ed contribution looked like at second interim that we just did in the previous month of this year. And so, for example, just looking at that last column, once again, so we received about $2.3 million in special ed revenues for this year, but it costs us about $8.7 million to run that program. So that difference between those two numbers is that $6.4 million. So what happens is the general fund has to contribute $6.4 million from unrestricted funds to special ed to cover that difference. And so this is what's called an encroachment. It's basically funds from the unrestricted side of the general fund have to be transferred over to restricted programs to cover those programs, which basically means, to basically make them balance. So the revenues and expenditures are the same. And that's what you're seeing there on that slide. It's also, I looked into it, and for this year, for example, 23-24, the statewide percentage for special ed students was about 12.8%. And in 23-24, our percentage of special ed students was about 16.5%. And for this year, our percentage of special ed students is about 17%. So over the past 5 years, our percentage of special ed students has increased. We flip to the next side. It's called the 25-26 budget assumptions. And what we have here is we start off with our second interim unrestricted revenue, which is that $26.1 million you'll see at the top there. And then we're including the increases from the property taxes for next year, which is that $1.5 million. Then below that, in parentheses, you'll see $150,000. That's the increase in special ed contribution. Since our special ed, our percentage of special ed students has been increasing for the past few years, it's probably a decent assumption that our number of special ed students will continue to increase. And as a result, we are increasing the contribution for special ed students for about $150,000. So those two numbers net out to the total change of revenues of about 1.4. And then we take that 1.4 and we add it to our 26.1 million. And we get for next year, 25-26, we're projecting unrestricted revenues to be about $27.5 million. If we flip to the next slide, which in green, it says unrestricted expenditure budget drivers dash fixed costs. You'll see there that there are some increased expenditures that are basically going to happen for next year. The first one you'll notice is step and column increases. Once again, those happen automatically. People move step and column just automatically by virtue of being on the salary schedule. So those costs are an increase, and we have to include those in the next year's budget. Below that, you'll see the health and welfare increases. And you'll see for this year, our health and welfare costs were about $3.4 million, and we're projecting them to come in at about $3.8 million. And that's that $422,000 increase that we'll see next year, strictly due to the health insurance rates being increased. And below that, you'll see that we're also anticipating increase in utilities of about $43,000. So when we add those three budget drivers up, we basically get about $854,000. So that's $854,000 more in expenses that we're going to see in next year's budget due to step and column, health and welfare, and utilities.
What did we receive some type of notice of increase in rates for utilities, or is this just like what the average increase is year over year, or where is this increase in utilities coming from?
Yeah, I've seen something come out in the spring from SBCEO, the county office, that basically says what they project the utilities to increase by. So right now, this is just looking back at some prior increases and basing it off what we have this year.
Okay.
Edison's rates are published.
Yeah.
And so they've got a approval from the PUC to a few years ago to increase rates, and they've gone back again. Both Edison and PG&E have gone back to get a further rate increase.
Okay.
So that's power. And then I know water is they're asking for an increase
Yeah,
as well.
I saw that, and I believe also
Yes.
sewer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's through property taxes, though, right? The sewer we pay in our property tax bill, our sewer access, right? Yeah, so that's separate, though. Okay.
Thank you.
If we flip to the next slide, entitled Unrestricted Budget Reductions, what we have here is a listing of the various categories of reductions that we talked about a couple times before. And I'll just go down them one by one. So the first category we have is professional services. Now that's a pretty broad category that encompasses many different things, but some of the big buckets we have in professional services are maintenance contracts, vehicle repairs, utilities, information technology, licenses, special ed contracts, and legal fees. So just going along that line, we're proposing that next year we're going to reduce that line in the budget by $291,000. And then right below that, you'll see conferences. We're going to reduce that by $20,000. Below that, you'll see a line for classified 10 instructional aides. We are going to reduce that by about $460,000. Below that, you'll have a reduction for certificated for 5 FTEs. That comes in, we're projecting at about $640,000. And then we have the gate, which we've talked about a couple times before. That comes in at about $102,000. And the elimination of 3 professional development summer work days, which comes in at about $151,000. So when we add all of those budget reductions up, that totals approximately 1.6, 1.7, and I'm rounding here, $1.7 million of budget reductions for the 25-26 budget year. On the next slide, what we're looking at here are the expenditures. So we start off with the 24-25 expenditures at second interim, which were about $25.9 million. And then as we just went over, we know we're going to have some increased costs. And those increased costs are that $854,000, so we're adding to the expenditures. Then right below that, we have the unrestricted budget reductions, which were those reductions that we just went over on the previous slide. And so we're reducing our expenditures next year by $1.7 million. And so that nets out to a net change of about $810,000 decrease. And so if we add all of that up, we're looking at our 25-26 unrestricted expenditures coming in at about $25.1 million. And this slide here, which is slide number 16, is kind of where it ties it all in together. So we start off with our second interim unrestricted ending fund balance of $1.7 million. And then for next year, we add in our 25-26 revenue of about 27.5. and then we deduct what we are proposed expenditures for 25-26. That's about 25.1. And so those net out to about an increase to the unrestricted general fund balance of about $2.4 million. And so that's why you'll see the projected unrestricted ending fund balance increase to about 4.1 million, which equates to a reserve percentage of, a reserve percentage of about 10.33%. Now, I want to mention once again that we're looking at 25-26. Once again, we have not settled for negotiations for 23-24 or 24-25. So when we do, once again, these numbers, especially the expenditures and the fund balance and the reserve percentage, those will all change once we settle. And if we flip to the last slide here, entitled the multi-year projection, in the first column, which is highlighted in green there, that's our second interim that we just reviewed a month or so ago. And you'll see at the very bottom that at second interim, we're projecting a reserve balance of about 4.29%. And in 25-26, due to the increases in revenue and also reductions in expenditures, we are projecting a reserve balance in 25-26 of about 10.33%. Once again, negotiations have not concluded, but once they do, those reserve percentages will change because we'll have additional expenditures. And then, the two columns to the right, you'll see our projected ending fund balances for 26-27 and 27 and 28. So that basically concludes my presentation at this point, and I would like to open it up and see if the board has any questions.
Go ahead if you have them. Any questions from the board?
No, I think this is fairly self-explanatory. Jason, thank you. I mean, there's a lot of variables in here that we haven't plugged yet.
Yes.
I mean, the negotiations being the primary one. So that health insurance increase, that's a number that CISC has already given us, correct?
Yes, we just got it basically about a week or two ago, correct.
Okay, yeah. And the statutory increases are set by the state, so.
Yes,
And
that's
those are
correct.
already, those were established, a while ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so the big variables obviously are compensation and benefits, as they normally are. Well, I guess the good news is the trend is looking better than it was.
Yes.
So that shows some promise there and allows us for some options moving forward with salaries and benefits. Yeah, no, I think this gives us a lot to think about.
Okay, thank you.
The reason why we're recommending the reductions is to create those options.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that's clear.
Yeah, when you compare the March 11th interim presentation and at the ending page with the multi-year projections, just going back and forth between that and what we have here,
Right.
which is reflective of those cuts. It's a
It is.
very different.
Well, we'd be at about six next year.
6.09
Yeah.
and then 9.7. The ending fund balance is significantly different. I mean, we're not deficit spending. It makes a huge difference. I just want to clarify back on the page with the cuts.
14.
Thank you. Oh, I went too far. Okay. So the certificate, like the 5 teachers, that's attrition, because we haven't riffed anybody. We aren't riffing anybody. I just want to be where these are coming from. Just
Yes, we're not replacing those that are leaving.
and we're not. So it's by attrition
Yes.
that this is happening. We're not. I just want to be clear how this is happening. Okay, so this is taking into account the gate, the 3 summer work days, conferences, the aides. Okay, so yeah, I guess for me it's the people that on here, that the reductions, those are attrition based.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to hear on that. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this is just, it's a very different place than we were. So it's a better place to be in moving forward out of this year. It doesn't change anything for this current year, obviously, but moving forward, it does. Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, sorry, let me just, see, I have to ask while I go, otherwise I lose my thoughts. So I apologize for
No.
interrupting you along the way, but if I get flustered when I have to flip back through and.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah, please.
Regarding the property tax, back in, I don't know, September, I believe you sent us the projections, when it got reduced down to the 5.07. How often do they typically send updates on that? As you said, they haven't sent any updates?
Yeah, so I understand it that the county office will send out what they call property tax projections, and they call that P1. So that's what we're seeing here in this presentation tonight. And then in the next, from what I've been told, basically in April sometime, we will receive our P2 property tax projections. As of today, I haven't received anything, but I'm thinking we should receive them, relatively soon.
Okay, and you'll pass that on to us?
I will.
Perfect.
Okay, if you could please pull out your crystal ball and tell me what the May revise is going to say, that'd be great. But I'm not, as part of CSBA, the California School Board Association, we had a legislative action week, and we Zoomed with a few legislators, and we were advocating for a bunch of different things, and we were told, don't tell me anything, don't ask me anything if it has a price tag associated with it. I'm like, well, everything has a price tag associated with it. And they said, well, we're keeping the cuts as far away as we can from education, and this is the same thing they said last year, but essentially it was like, we're trying to keep the cuts as far away from education as we can. However, we know that, or I should say, I don't know that we know, but there are cuts coming potentially from the federal side towards education, and potentially we've been somewhat insulated, I believe, in California from some things, but there's a few things that have been put out there that we may not be able to be insulated from, as far as special education funding, title programs and things like that. And so I don't know if the governor will be able to speak to how any of that will affect things at the May revise or not, but that is something that I'm concerned about, especially because our title programs are, directly to students. I know California has a commitment to the meals program, separate from the federal government, so we don't have as much of an issue there, but it's more so when it comes to special education, and what is it, Medi-Cal.
But the meals is paid for with the USDA, not the Department of Education.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm nervous about not like we're getting funded like we should be anyways for SPED from the federal government, but any cuts especially when we're getting so underfunded, I am really concerned about. And so if you get any advanced information on that, I know I personally would like to hear about it, but also I think we would all like to hear what, if any, types of federal efforts in reduction to our budget. First, raise the flag.
I'll do that.
I don't know how else to say it without saying too much, but I'm concerned when it comes to that. Okay, so any further questions, comments, remarks? Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
This was just a review. There's no action on this, correct? Just looking, correct. Okay. We're moving on to I, Measure U. If you would like to make public comment on Measure U, please step up to the podium at this time.
Okay, thank you. We don't usually comment on Measure U, but we have a question. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Caff. In the budget presentation this evening, we couldn't find any mention of the robust revenues from the sale of the Baylor properties.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
That is not on the agenda. Baylor
Measure U,
property?
correct?
The agenda items
Yeah.
as related to Measure U. So if you would like to speak to I-1, approval of the contract proposal for landscape architectural services, please feel free, because that's the only agenda item.
No, we're
under
just
I.
we're just trying to figure out why the millions of dollars associated with the Baylor property was not included in the presentation. Another example
That's a budget. Okay, so
another example of
nope. Sorry.
underestimating
You can
revenues.
stop
Thank
now
you.
because this is not the time for commenting on this. You had your opportunity to comment on the budget items during the budget, not now. Okay, no further. Services from Firma Landscape Architects. After the portable building at Canalino is demolished, the district will need to landscape the area where the portable was previously located. The proposal for architectural landscape services area is approximately 18,400 square feet. These site improvements will include fencing for an enclosed courtyard outside of classrooms 5, 6, and Building A. The estimate for this project is $5,257 and will be paid with Measure U bond funds. Any questions from the board? May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Jay, personnel, if you'd like to make a comment on personnel, now is the time. Please step up to the podium.
Yes, thank you. We would. Union leadership welcomes our newest sped aide at Canalino after Edmund's performance and resource starvation in Canalino special education throughout the majority of this year. She enters a challenging and dynamic environment, and we want her to know that if and when challenges exist, she should reach out to her union representatives on site and in the district. It will be sad to see leaders like Renee Morales leaving the district. This guy has done such exceptional work at Aliso over the years in an environment where being a male teacher is both as rewarding as it is vulnerable. Renee put his heart into the task every day, and he remains a fabulous example of the kind of exceptional teacher that kids remember for the rest of their lives. We also recognize the resignation of yet another young and talented teacher, Ms. Vila. One can't help but wonder how motivated her resignation was by the current refusal by our school board and senior admin to budget for employee salary increases to begin in some way to keep up with the 23% cost of living increase regionally that has occurred in the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the district has not even acknowledged the modest 2% increase for 23-24 and 2% increase for 24-25 that we proposed on February 28th. That would also include a contingency for additional unprojected revenues. Of course, it would be it would not be, I should say, a CUSD personnel report if it didn't contain another new contractor hired by the district for special education to address the duties that we can't keep our own SPED teachers around for. So not only does this report contain yet another contracted SPED employee, but it also contains the retirement resignation of a SPED teacher who has only worked in the district for a few years. So there's your summary on the personnel report. Thank you.
Okay. J, personnel summary. J1, the board is asked to approve the following recommended personnel items. Assignments, 1, retirements, 2, resignation, 1, leave of absence, 1, contract, 1. Any questions from the board? May I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, in discussion, I just like to thank Mr. Morales for his work at Aliso and with the dual language immersion program in particular. He is an absolute example, and I wish we could clone him. I just, whenever I've gone into his classroom on site visits or open house or back to school night just to say hi and check in, his students are engaged and excited. He has such a passion for what he does, and it is seen, and I'm excited for him and to enjoy his retirement, but we are definitely, there's going to be big shoes to fill in that position. So thank you. And yeah, and thank you, Ms. Frank, as well. I haven't had much experience with her as much, but thank you for your service as well. Okay. Any other discussion there?
We gotta move it. We gotta make a motion. Do we have?
I thought we did.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay.
That time, I was like, that time I think we did. Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Future agenda items. If you have public comment on K, future agenda items, please step up to the podium.
So as we did at the end of the last board meeting, employee leadership again asks that the concept of a contingency formula used to resolve our fiscal disagreements be placed on an upcoming board agenda and one in the near future. This evening, the district provided another round of strategic projections. While overestimating expenditures, millions of dollars more in legal fees, and by underestimating revenues, removing $4.5 million from the district's property tax revenue projections, CUSD removed a total of $7.5 million from the district's reserve balance, on paper that is. These are unlikely to be the actual revenues and expenditures, but this accounting tactic does result in $7.5 million less being involved in the decision or available in the decisions that have to do with critical bargaining decisions and programming decisions that impact district students and employees and families in the community. For comparison, that $7.5 million on paper is not being invested in valuable programs that offer students and families a variety and choice like CFS or GATE or intramural sports at the junior high level or more robust transportation services. That is $7.5 million equivalent to 37.5% in salary increases for teachers and support staff, while employees recently asked for a total of 4% over a 2-year period with a contingency formula that shared all future revenues. That's $7.5 million on paper that district officials allege are not available for the purpose of relieving economic instability associated with cost of living increases, which have increased again to 20 to 23% regionally in the past 2 years. Again, if an agreement is to be had, it will not be the result of arguing over the accuracy of the district's projected revenues, however. Instead, employees have provided district officials with a proposal that binds employees to accepting the district's current projections, however manipulated employees may believe they are, as long as a contingency formula is put in place. In short, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is, as long as we can ensure that an equitable distribution of additional property tax revenues is available if and when They come in higher than the district's projections. Absolutely reasonable. Let's explore the value of putting such a contingency formula in place to address whatever revenue uncertainties exist. To leave you with a positive thought that may be hard for you to imagine at this time, imagine an impasse agreement that not only covers the past, but even covers the next few years. Imagine an impasse agreement that actually places the district and employees on the same side of the table. Imagine an impasse agreement that divides CUSD's future revenues in a more predictably and equitable manner. And again, imagine a future where CUSD and its employees are rowing in the same direction over district finances.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Winning and
Thank
losing
you.
together.
Your time is up.
Together, Ms. Diamond. Thank you.
Hello. I look forward to hearing more about the proposed budget in upcoming meetings. In previous times, we've had public comments after the presentations or whatever, so I didn't know what questions I could ask beforehand. It'd be nice if if the questions were after. One little clarification thing that I'm trying to understand with special education, and Mr. Caff was explaining about the encroachments. And I'm looking at the 5-year financial history, and we've had, expenditures, we've had encroachments every single time. From someone who doesn't know a lot about accounting and so forth, why do we have this as an encroachment? Or why is this an encroachment? Why, since it's so consistently over the revenues projected for it, why don't we have revenues that cover? Why is the expenditures
Sorry.
above?
You're asking a question that's not in line with what the agenda item is necessarily, unless you're asking for him to bring that forward answer that question at the next meeting, or you could also email him in between to get a sooner answer. But this is about future agenda items. So if you're looking
Okay. I'll email
for him
you.
to answer
Thanks so
that,
much.
sorry, I'm trying to guide. If you can,
Like I said, if we had the question and answers after the presentation, like you guys got to ask questions after the presentation, I would like to have been able to ask questions as well. And it's a shame that we don't have that kind of.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe a future
Okay,
agenda item to
so-
move questions after, the items.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. So for our future, one more.
Rogelio Delgado, Carpinteria resident. Budget projections are that, projections. Nothing is certain. We may have a healthy budget, we may not. Bless you. Actually, the budget is 100% coming from real estate. Isn't that right? Or most of it. They're not selling. 8 homes were sold last. Yeah.
Okay.
2025, 2026 proposed budget
As a future agenda item.
as a future agenda
Yes.
item. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Future.
But
6
we're not
months.
discussing
Correct.
the budget in this. We're saying just identifying items to be put. So
It's future.
Yep.
Future.
I'm just trying to.
Correct.
The scope
Yeah.
is
So,
supposed to be the intent
What's
of
going to happen
this.
with my time?
What would you like to see on the agenda, or a change within the budget presentation or something like that on the future agenda item?
Reports on properties sold in Carpinteria every month.
That's
Yeah,
not- okay. Thank you for your
Why not?
request.
That's
That's your comment.
what should be focused on. Real estate is property tax. You get most of your money, most of the money from real estate tax. Properties sold. Isn't that right? Where do you get it from? The budget, the money. Where do you get it from? Mostly. Can Google it. Thank you.
Our future agenda items that are proposed is the 25-26 proposed budget, the 25-26 LCAP, and the CHS WASC report. Do any board members have any requests of items to be added to the list at this time? No? Okay. All right. Board announcements. There's nothing on the calendar to highlight, correct? There is.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you be kind enough to calendar May 2nd
Oh, okay.
as our campus visits?
Gotcha.
Thank you. And
Great.
we'll send out the specific schedule. We'll begin at Summerland.
Gotcha.
We did get that.
Okay. Board announcements.
I was just going to say, I've been trying to go to the coffees with the principal at each of the school sites, and it's such a great way for parents to interact one-on-one with the principal and other parents to have their questions answered. If you look at Parent Square, they're all there, and I think all the principals would love to have parents at their meetings, which there have been. It's good attendance at the one I've gone to.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Okay. We have open houses coming up. It's just that. It's an open house. If your student will be going into middle school or going into high school, now is a great time to go check out that other school site. Likewise, if your student will still just be remaining at that site, go check it out. See what's happened since back to school night. There's a lot going on, and you'll get an opportunity to meet potential teachers or students will have next year. The dates were listed in the superintendent's report and are sent out on Parent Square. Let's see here. We have the Carpinteria Community Awards Banquet on April 26th, and Teachers of the Year, Elizabeth Poulin, one of our middle school science teachers, as well as Renee Morales from Aliso, will be honored as Carpinteria Teachers of the Year. Very exciting, and they deserve it. They've done great work, so excited for those opportunities. Also, the climate on campus at the middle school is amazing. We were able to go to the color run and walk, jog, watch, and the parent involvement, the student excitement was wonderful. And then just last week was the spring middle school dance. I happened to be around the corner at the pool for a swim meet and was able to look in and see what was going on at the middle school dance, and it was really, really cool. The students were having a lot of fun. Interestingly enough, the students who were on an activity ban for whatever reason, there was quite a few of them who hung out at the gate, respected the fact that they were not supposed to go in, and sat there, and it was interesting, the dynamic there. But well, what? Come on, why can't I do it? And it was, well, you had 30 tardies last month or whatever it was, and yeah, but well, if you want to go next time, don't be tardy. Fine, it was really interesting. But anyways, the kids inside, there were kids dancing, there were kids just sitting and talking, there were kids playing basketball, kids playing gaga ball outside. So it was really unique, and it was a great atmosphere. So good job, CMS. Yeah. Anything else before we go? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.